Welcome to a TVGP Spoilercast. Here we're going to talk about Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I'm your host, Boston. Joining me is the Nymph.
Whoop whoop.
We are here to spoil Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. So, it's been a couple of years since we put out a Spoilercast here, so let's kind of go over the thing. In case you haven't heard a Spoilercast, either from us or from other shows that do a similar thing, we're going to talk about everything about Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. This is your first and final spoiler warning. We're not gonna keep beating that horse as we go through.
Nope.
But since this is I keep seeing this say the second part of a planned trilogy is probably the best way to put it.
Yeah.
We're going to be talking about Rebirth, but we're also going to be talking about Remake. And likely we'll be talking a lot about the original Final Fantasy VII, because all of it is kind of tied together in multiple ways.
Some of the side games may get discussed as well, because they've been adding a lot of what I would consider to be filler back in the day to is now like full-on canon. So
yeah, the four games the four things we'll likely be talking about is Ever Crisis, Dirge of Cerberus, Crisis Core, and I will make an Advent Children comment later on, just because there's an Advent Children thing at the end of this game.
and
So
there will also be a reference to the novel,
yes,
Christ
that's true.
of Two Parts, which
Yes,
I
have not
didn't
read.
know existed until I started.
I kept seeing it on
this.
Amazon, and I thought it was like a fan book. And they're like, no, the official novel. And I was like, all right, go read that too then. All right.
Yeah.
So if it's a Final Fantasy VII thing, we're probably going to be talking about it. So,
Yep.
But if you're listening to this still at this point and you've played Rebirth, you probably checked out a lot of that other stuff. All right. So how we're going to do it, going to go through the intro, go through all 14 chapters, talk about the ending. Let's get started. The intro of the game here opens with, Midgar getting destroyed by a whole bunch of tornadoes, and Zack is still alive, and Cloud and Aerith are injured, and
Passed out. Yeah.
yeah, like passed out. Something went wrong. The white materia looks different at this point, and Zack fights a whole bunch of people, and Shinra has captured the entire crew. And like watching this cutscene, I was just like, "Yeah, wait, what? what's going on here?"
Because when this first started, it was like, oh, they bumped up the time frame
Right.
on this because Zack and Cloud coming back to Midgar happens, I think, in game, and it's all loosey goosey. So don't take the time frame literal, but it's roughly a year and a half before Cloud joins Avalanche and they go to Sector 7 and all that fun stuff.
Right, because
So
that scene is like sort of famously the ending of Crisis Core. Is like where the two kind of Crisis Core and the original game kind of the timeline meet up.
yeah, and this picks up right with him and Cloud being at Midgar, and the other team without Cloud
Right.
are captured now and presumably dead
Right.
at this point. And no one knows where Cloud's at either. I think that was mentioned in like the news thing that's going overhead. They were talking about how there was like one Avalanche person missing with like a big sword.
Right.
So
yeah, they were making a big deal about like, yeah, we captured Avalanche, we got them, the terrorists, and it's just like, oh, okay, cool, great.
So off the bat, already confused as what's going on, but
yeah,
in a good way.
And then kind of directly leads right into Chapter 1 with the Nibelheim flashback, which serves as kind of a long tutorial for the game overall.
Yep.
And we've talked about the Nibelheim flashback in considerable length kind of on the main show. But I think for the majority of this chapter, it's actually largely similar to the original game, just extended largely.
Yeah.
So you go to the... I like that they kept the whole thing of them going to the reactor and finding the experiments, and then that starting to be the downfall of kind of Sephiroth's sanity, I guess. I don't know how you explain it, but
opening up to new possibilities in his career.
yeah. He's taking a leave of absence. But I like that they. I also talked about it on the main show. I like that they spent a lot of time showing who Sephiroth was before those discoveries. So, like, you can see he has a little bit of charisma. People seem to really like him. He's ridiculously strong. Like, he's just... Cloud
Yeah.
can barely lift up his sword, and this dude is just like, oh, I'll just impale this giant monster. You know, yawn, no big deal.
Yeah, he
Um,
cracks jokes, which is very unsettling to see
yeah.
Sephiroth do.
Yeah, like, when he's like... he's like talking to the soldiers and stuff and making jokes with them, and I'm like, this is weird, man. I don't
Yeah.
know. This is just super weird. Um, so this is all of that stuff is largely unchanged. I do like the one other thing I'll mention is I do like that kind of like film effect they use when Barrett interjects and he's like, "Wait a minute, what did you say?" And it kind of like the frame
Just
falls off.
stops and yeah.
Yeah, it's really good.
They do a lot of good work with transitions and scene
Mhm.
changes and stuff like that. Not all the time. They still have like the regular fade to black, but like with important moments, they
Yeah,
seem to take a moment and change how they're going to transition, kind of like
right.
how a lot of movies do,
Hmm.
which is really good. And you don't see a whole lot in video games.
Well, and
So
as the game goes on, they use like digital snow and digital artifacts and stuff a lot to
yeah,
not only communicate something but also to kind of unsettle you, especially when Sephiroth is kind of haunting Cloud a lot. Like there's that kind of
uh,
digital noise.
I was gonna say that crackling that they make,
Yes.
like that starting pitch. If you have headphones on, it is piercing.
Oh, I bet.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. So I would recommend turning the volume down if you're gonna go back,
Yeah.
because man,
I
ugh,
do. This chapter ends in a scene that I think is really interesting with Cloud talking to Tifa on the roof of the inn and Calm. Like Cloud and Tifa have kind of told their story. It ends with that like back and forth flashing between Cloud and Sephiroth facing each other down right next to Genova, and like that's the end of the story of like what happened. It's like nobody knows, man. Like nobody
yeah,
knows where. I don't remember anything. Tifa doesn't remember anything. The city is gone, and like Sephiroth and Genova just disappeared. Like I have no idea, man.
yeah. No one's seen them since that incident. So
Right. um, I do like the conversation between Tifa and Cloud on the roof here, where Tifa is pretty unhappy with how Cloud is acting and treating her, and she shows him the scar that she got as part of the like when Sephiroth cut her in the reactor. I really I thought it was weird the when I was playing this game, in this scene they don't show her scar. Because in this game it looks like she gets cut lower on her chest than she did in the original. Because in the original she gets like stabbed directly through the chest
yeah,
by Sephiroth.
yeah. And it looks like
Um,
at this point it's below her chest, just
yeah, it's
slightly
almost
below her
like the
chest.
kind of like the lower rib cage area.
Yeah,
And they didn't show it, and I was like, that's kind of weird. Like that's a strange choice. And then it comes up like 10 chapters later, and I'm like, okay, I see what you're doing here, because like I think it's an interesting them trying to keep us in the dark a little bit about Cloud is continually wondering if Tifa is real or not,
yeah.
and if she is real, she'll have that scar. And if she isn't, then nothing's going to be there. But we, as the player, don't know. Um, so I think that's kind of an interesting choice for
It
them to do.
it does make for a very good anchor point, like you brought up later on, where she's
Hmm.
like she shows him again to like kind of to try to help center him again because
Right.
he's losing it. And we'll get to that point, but it didn't
Yeah.
help the third time around. So,
Yeah. Exactly. Um.
uh,
So chapter 2 is a new journey begins. This is where you start by wandering around Calm. It's kind of the first time you get uh, access to play the game.
Yep.
You were doing some fighting and some stuff in the tutorial, but that's largely just like, here's some easy battles, here's a boss, and stuff like this.
What did you think of how Calm looked?
I thought it looked super cool.
Yes.
I
I forgot that it was based off of a castle,
Yes,
because
me too.
in the original, all you have is just, in the original, the camera's just super pulled back and you're looking at basically the square of the town. But if you look in the background, you can faintly see like a stone castle wall with turrets and everything.
Right.
And it wasn't until you're let loose and you can look around, and it was like, I took like a solid 2 minutes up there on the end roof just looking around. I was like, man, this is super cool.
Yeah, there's a lot of that in. I think we had both praised Remake for doing the same thing with Midgar, of like, all right, you've taken these kind of static screens and you've really built an entire city out of them in a way that's really impressive, in a way that, we see this later with Junon too, where it's like, dang, this place is really, that gun is really big. Like, you made this cool thing.
And they do a surprisingly good job of, all these towns were mostly like 2D because they were just, they were artwork that you were running on top of in the original game.
Yeah.
But they were surprisingly able to keep a lot of the mapping of the originals in these.
Sure,
now,
right.
There are differences because we are in a 3D space now. But it's like, if you look at the original map for Calm and how you have like the under area for the bar that you can go into, and then you can go upstairs, like that's in this as well. Whereas like there's that bottom section with the bar, and you go up the stairs, and there's the top section with the weapon shop and everything else.
Yeah.
So it's like they do a pretty good job with the detail, with a lot, both in Remake and in Rebirth, for a lot of that. So it's like I said in the show, it's kind of like a museum piece for this game, where it's like, I'm fighting these things, but I'm also like looking around and checking things out. And I was like, I'm sitting in asset and spinning the camera so I can look at the detail on the enemies and stuff.
Yeah.
So.
We do get Red 13 joins the party at this point, since he wasn't playable in the previous game. And we also get introduced to the... we're not going to talk about a ton about kind of various gameplay stuff, but we do get introduced to the sort of relationship meter for each individual party member here.
Yep.
And I still have the feedback that, boy, I wish I could have seen what people's relationships were in the main menu or something. You do get access to that once you beat the game, and you go back in. Like, each party member has a specific menu of like, you went on a date with them, you went and did their side quest, you chose the same swimsuit to go to the beach, stuff like that. There's a checklist, but I kind of wish, especially with the gold saucer being such an important part of this game, I wish that there was a way to say like, hey, if you go do some side quests with Tifa, you'll get her relationship stuff up higher, and you'll be able to go on a date with her.
And apparently, the side quest and the synergies apparently boost that meter up quite a bit too, which I did not know, because I didn't use the synergies a whole lot. Because starting out, they were not that useful, and they were kind of a pain because your party doesn't build up their own AT bar. You have to manually switch over to them and then take control to build it up for a little bit.
Right.
And then you can start adding the little pips for the synergy bars. So it took a while, and it wasn't until, I would say, almost the end of the game, like closer to the end of the game, that I started checking out the synergies and then realizing, these kind of take place of like limit breaks in a weird way.
Yes, they're very strong. I think I had something equipped to Tifa where she would automatically do one of her individual skills. I think there was a materia for like auto cast your innate skill, and that was that would let me do the synergies a lot. But other than that, like I wasn't doing them a whole lot.
It was mostly due to my pig-headedness of, no, I want to play as Cloud. I don't want to play... I want the other two characters to play themselves. And then I had to eventually get over myself and be like, fine, I will go play as Aerith for a bit in the middle of this battle.
Right, fine, you won't give me a Gambit system. I'll play as Tifa. All right. We do also learn how to play Queen's Blood in this, because Queen's Blood will come up later in probably one of the better scenes in this game. But we've also talked about our love of Queen's Blood in the main show quite a bit. So Queen's Blood is great.
Surprisingly.
Yeah. You escape from Calm, which is fine, and you get access to the open world for the first time. Kind of explain. I think they call it the Grasslands as the area around Calm. Boy, that was way bigger than I thought. I thought this was going to be, most modern JRPGs are like, all right, now you're going to go this next, and like a little airship goes boop, 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 boop on a little map and like flies to the next node, and you're like, we've arrived here in the Grasslands, and moving on. I'm glad we could explore all of that stuff. How did you like the open world stuff?
I liked it, and I also feel, starting out with Grasslands being as big as it is, I am glad that it started out that way, because I feel like you get Grasslands, which is really decent size.
Mm-hmm.
You've got Junon, which is a little smaller than the Grasslands.
Right.
Then you've got the Costa del Sol section.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that area is pretty decent. Cosmo Canyon's an okay size, but not huge.
Yeah.
And as you get to the end of the game, they kind of start making them smaller.
Yeah, like Nibelheim's area isn't super big.
Yeah, which is great, because usually it's the opposite. Like you were saying, it's like Grasslands would have been the tutorial area, so it would have been like this tiny little slab, and then Nibelheim would have been the size of like 2 Grasslands. So, but I enjoyed it. Not so much with the Chocobo minigame all the time.
No,
but
I kind of, if they would have done that once or maybe twice, I probably would have been okay. But like, by the time you're in Cosmo Canyon, I'm like, I don't want to trap and like capture another one of these dudes. Like, I have like 300,000 gil. Can I just spend a bunch of money and say like, can I just buy one of these instead?
And that's why I thought it was so weird that they took out breeding in Rebirth.
Yes.
With how many mini games they've added into this game compared to the original, it's like the breeding would have fit right in. So I thought it was kind of an odd choice that it's like, oh no, we're going to get rid of breeding, and we're just going to have you play these mini games to get chocobos now.
Yeah, especially because the chocobo racing takes such a focus in certain parts of the game, like it did in the original.
Yeah.
And they've replaced kind of the trying to create the best chocobo with you putting equipment on your chocobo, which, number one, looks pretty cool. There's a lot of cool looks, but like being able to like increase your chocobo drift stat by putting on a different hat is just sort of like, all right, this is a real like Square Enix moment we're having here.
Yeah. So just a weird choice, but whatever.
We do meet Chadley again. I'm not the biggest fan of Chadley, or Mai is a little bit better.
Yeah.
His new companion.
We also, this is where we get dropped on us that Chadley is not a human.
Right.
Chadley is a robot AI.
Yeah, he's like, I'm a Shinra robot. And I was like, did I know that already? I feel like I didn't.
That was not mentioned at all in Remake. He was just some weird kid in Remake who worked for Shinra.
Yeah, like in Remake he was like, I work for Shinra, but I'm one of the good guys. Let's create some materia. I have this VR headset. But
from listening to it, it's like everyone had the same reaction, because he just drops it like we should already know. Like it's part of a sentence that he spews out, and he just continues on like it was nothing. And from everything that I looked at, everyone pretty much had the same reaction of, wait a minute, what the hell?
Yep. Yeah, that's super weird.
Yeah. Maya, I didn't mind at all, except for that her voice was kind of piercing coming through the speaker. And I think it was mostly to do with the speaker and the controller.
Yeah.
Like, it's not meant to get that high.
No, and like, I appreciate that they use some of the controller stuff, but like, I don't need so much of it coming out of the speaker where you're fighting a fiend, and Maya's like, well, these ones reproduce by doing this lava, and I was like, I'm trying not to get poisoned. Going to do a little checklist on this thing, so like, give me a break here. you do the whole thing with the swamps and fighting Midgard Sormer, which is the giant. Did Sephiroth do this snake thing from the original? Which
Which they did change its name. Because let me see if
I
I can
don't
find it.
remember what its name was in the original.
I wrote it down. Let me find where is the stupid thing in the notes.
Let me refer to my notes here.
You know what? Let me just pull the guide because I think I didn't write it down in that note. Because
Yeah,
it's like
yeah. Nimp has the original Final Fantasy VII guide here in hand, which I have somewhere in my collection in this room, but I
it
don't have on hand.
it was originally called the Midgar Zolam.
The Zolam, that's right. I wonder if that
Yeah.
is a translation
I was
weird
wondering that too
oddity.
because the name in Rebirth isn't that far off. It almost sounds like it's
No,
pronounced about the same way. So I'm wondering if
yeah,
it's another Eris era thing.
right.
So, but either way, I just thought it was interesting that it was slightly different.
Yep. So we move on to chapter 3 here, which is Deeper into Darkness. This is largely the Mithril Mines section of this game. The party gets split up. Barrett and Red 13 go off as they kind of go down to chase a black robe that fell off of the side of the cliff here in the mines. And then Cloud, Tifa, and Aerith go off by themselves to do, block pushing, climbing puzzles in this dungeon.
Which,
Um,
yeah.
I like at this point that you see more of Barrett having like a protective fondness for the black robes, that kind of extends throughout the entire game in a way that I don't think I really would have expected.
Mm-mm.
He is a big softy, but like none of the rest of all the rest of the group kind of feels badly for them, but Barrett is really kind of feeling overly protective about them, which I think is pretty interesting.
Yeah, and it doesn't feel off character at all either
Right,
for him. Like it doesn't
right.
feel like a forced thing. It's like, oh, we got to make somebody,
Yes,
feel
somebody has to
bad for him.
protect these poor
Yeah.
guys. Like, yeah. Um, we do get a Turk boss fight here with Elena and who's the bald one? Reno?
Rude.
Rude. I always get
Yeah.
Reno and Rude. I always get because I think that Rude is the red-haired one because he's rude. Like
Yeah.
like
Which, we don't see him like at all, and I
until
don't.
the very end.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I don't remember him being out of action in remake.
I think he got hurt as part of the dropping the seventh sector plate, but I never
Maybe.
thought it seemed that bad.
Yeah, because
So
I know in the original we see him a lot sooner than we do in Rebirth,
right, right.
and I don't have an issue with it anyway. I like all
It's
three
just
of them.
odd.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it is. So, and we see a lot more of Soon than we ever did
yeah.
in original. So,
I was kind of surprised at how much Sung is in this game because he seemed in the original that he was always kind of the dude off doing something else, and
yeah.
like Rude and Elena were always kind of the ones hassling the group, or like the three of them were kind of hassling the group. I do
Yeah,
like
they
how
definitely have a Team Rocket feel to them.
they really do. It's us again, haha, the
Yeah.
Turks. It's like, oh god, these guys again. I kind of like Elena in this game. I feel like she didn't get as much quote unquote screen time in the original as she did in this, and I like that they gave her more stuff to do in this one, and she is a pain to fight in this game every time.
Hmm.
She is messing you up.
Especially with Rude giving her support.
Mm-hmm.
It's like when you have an opening to fight Elena one on one, and then Rude's just like in the far off corner deciding, hey, no, that's not gonna fly, and he
Yeah,
does like a ranged attack on you to keep you on your toes. It's like, man, come
yeah,
on. I know you guys are supposed to be fighting together, but go play with Tifa. She's over there helping you.
yeah. Like you can punch each other for a while. Um, After that, we kind of break out into Chapter 4, Dawn of a New Era. This is the under Junon stuff.
Yep.
The reason we're flying through some of these early chapters is because the game kind of flies through them. There's
Yeah.
like Chapter 3 is just the Mithril Mines. It's kind of none of them are super duper long here. So we get to explore the Under Junon area, which is another town that I really like because I feel like in the original it was like here's one screen and then all right let's go to the real Junon. But it looked much more like a genuine fishing village than I felt like it did in the original, which I think
Yeah.
helps the town out a lot.
Especially since the whole story about that village being squeezed out by Shinra
Mm-hmm.
is a lot more apparent in
Yeah,
Rebirth, because everything looks kind of busted and downtrodden, and they're even talking about how they can't even go out in the waters anymore
right.
to go fish because everything's dead and there's something big out there
Yeah,
that they can't, and Shinra's not doing anything about it.
yeah. It's nice to see the game never really pushes it too much, but it's nice to see everybody in this world sort of getting screwed over by Shinra. Like
Yeah.
it's not it's kind of you could lose sight of that in the original, I think, a little bit. But in this game, it's sort of like, yeah, everybody, Shinra is still bad. Like, it's not just you're out of Midgar and things are better. Nope, the whole world is kind of messed over by these guys.
Well, and something else that I tried to look up too, because in Rebirth they talk about how Junon was part of the Republic that was at war with Shinra, like
Yes,
forever ago.
talking a lot about the Republic.
Yeah, I tried to look into it, and there's not a whole lot of information on
Mm-hmm.
the Republic, and I don't. And I'm gonna just say this right now. I'm not for sure, but I don't believe the Republic of Junon was in the original game. I think this is
I
something
don't.
that's been added in.
Yeah, I don't remember it either because that was my impression playing this game. Is they're sort of like, it was Shinra versus the Republic, and then Shinra eventually absorbed the Republic, and people are
Yeah.
sort of like maybe not in like the friendliest of terms. Shock, surprise. And they talk about it a lot in this game, which I think is interesting because my recollection of the original game is sort of it's been Shinra for a really long time,
Yeah.
and if it isn't Shinra, it's the Cetra. If it's anything else, you kind of don't need to worry about it.
Yeah, I was gonna say because from my understanding, even in Crisis Core, it's
Mm-hmm.
still brought up that that Junon has always been a part of Shinra.
Oh, okay, interesting.
So, and I don't know if they changed it with the new release of Crisis Core either. I'm speaking
Yeah, I
back to the
haven't.
PSP game, so
Yeah, I
or
haven't played
version.
the new version of it yet. I
Yeah,
probably should. That's a great game.
it is a fun game.
Unfortunately, Roche shows back up, the blonde guy on a motorcycle who I really hate. I feel
I go
badly,
I go back
but
and forth on him.
yeah,
Like I
he's
find him entertaining, but not. He's kind of like Johnny to me.
yeah,
Or
like
it's like a
largely harmless, a big
yeah.
fanboy.
You see him every once in a while, and it's just on the edge of being too much.
Right, right. Um, so he shows up to kind of hassle Cloud a little bit. Yuffie shows back up, and kind of makes her grand entrance here in this game. And then we do the kind of fight the Terror of the Deep boss here, which is I didn't even realize it was different from the original until you made a note here in our big document here.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, because
which
in the original it's called the Bottom's Well or Bottom
mhm,
Swell.
right.
The funny thing about the guide is that it has it mushed as one word,
Hmm.
so I don't know if there's supposed to be a space in there or
Right.
not.
And
So
that the old Final Fantasy VII guide is sort of infamous for having a ton of mistranslations and
Brady was a weird company
yeah.
that didn't always get a whole lot right. Like I have notes in my guide here of things
Hmm.
that they missed, extra ribbons that you could get that
Oh
they
wow.
don't have in there. There's like a whole section in a place that we haven't even gotten to that will be in the next game that they
Mm.
just missed, which
Oh
has a
jeez.
hidden ribbon in it. So
Okay.
yeah,
Wow.
Brady's always
Um.
been weird. I don't even know if they exist anymore, but anyway.
Yeah, I don't know. So they sort of, if you remember from the original Final Fantasy VII, there was a CPR minigame and a dolphin jumping over power
Yep.
line minigame kind of back to back here. They replaced that with a Mr. Dolphin racing minigame, which I thought was going to be more in depth.
And they do kind of misdirect you with the CPR minigame, because instead of it being Priscilla that's knocked out, it's Yuffie.
Right.
And they're all yelling that Yuffie needs CPR, and they get Cloud to go over there to go get, because he's a soldier and he's had training in it, and he's all up and ready for it, and then Yuffie wakes out and freaks out because Cloud's trying to kiss her.
Right.
So it's a good switch. I enjoyed that, because the CPR minigame kind of sucked in the original.
That was tough to do.
Yeah.
Here, as we're going from Under Junon to Upper Junon, we get the first cutscene here with Glenn Lodbrok, who shows up for the first time, and just like the Chadley scene, everybody's like, "Sorry, who are you? Who am I supposed to know you?" The answer is no, not really, because we didn't play the game, the Japanese only mobile phone game that featured him, and now there's some chapters of him in like the gacha iOS and Android game that's out currently. So it's a lot of like, hey, it's Glenn. Rufus shot him in the back during a mission. That's pretty much all you need to know.
Yep.
So like, it's a real like Square Enix moment of like, this is going really well. Did I miss something? Like a cutscene? Because who's this guy? Who are you?
Yeah.
We do go up to Junon. Nimp made a note here that I think is interesting, that there's a change here. Cloud goes up to Junon solo in the original. In this one, the entire party gets lifted up in that cool giant ship, and kind of everybody goes up to Junon at the same time.
Which doesn't, like, it's cool either way.
Yeah.
Because in the original, you're just finding everyone sporadically spread out, but they don't join you because there's no fighting or anything. So it's not like they lost anything by adding this.
Right.
But I was worried for a moment there when you have to start doing the practice parade stuff, and you're getting everyone dressed into uniform, and then Tifa and Aerith are both like, we don't know how to do any of this.
Right. Yeah, because they kind of replace a lot of this with practicing the parade stuff, which I appreciate them practicing, because that scene in the original is kind of infamous for like, wait, what am I? Oh God, hold on, I got to push these buttons. Geez.
The amount of times I had to restart the parade because I didn't run in between the lines correctly in the original.
Oh my God, that's right.
And then realizing, oh wait, you were supposed to do it this way the entire time, and the game never tells you that.
So annoying. We do get Barrett in love with his sailor outfit for the first time here.
Best thing
way
ever.
into it.
Oh my God.
But this is a great scene here where you're recruiting the 7th Infantry. You get promoted here, and they're like, all right, you're in charge of the parade. Go find your infantry, get everybody ready, and let us know when you're done. I wasn't sold on the kind of, how do I put it, the increased comedy in this game until you get to the bald bar, where like you have to be bald to come in there, and they do the little like swipe on their head when they do their greeting, and like of course Rude is the one who's like helming the bald bar, and I was like, all right, I think you get the comedy in this game now, with like, here's an entire bald platoon of dudes here in this basement. It's like, oh, all right, here, the boss is here, let's go.
Which is really funny, because in the original game, there is a bar in Junon, and Rude is just sitting there, and it's just a normal bar. And he knows that it's Cloud impersonating a soldier.
Right.
But he doesn't do anything because he's off the clock.
Right. I love Rude, where he's like, if I'm on the clock and like it's business time, I'm gonna mess you up. But if I'm not, like, I'm just sitting here trying to take a drink, man. Yeah. This area probably also has the biggest jump scare in the game of you like coming out of a building and there's like 100 dudes out there just being like, "What's up, boss? We're ready. Let's go do the parade." And it's like, jeez, God, there's so many of you. Holy crap.
Especially because I didn't get to that point where they formed up.
Mm-hmm.
So I stepped out of the store and I just see like a huge group of people running at me. I'm like, oh crap, what did I do?
They found me. They figured it out. Oh no. Yeah. I actually really liked the parade minigame itself in this. I think it's a little confusing on purpose, where the dot you're following is kind of going in and out and like
Yeah.
around people in the environment. But I think it's kind of cool instead of just like the buttons flashing on screen and you're kind of
Yeah.
pushing them.
I also like how it flows through the scenery.
Yes.
The only thing I don't like is every once in a while that camera gets at a weird angle,
Mm-hmm.
and so you can't tell, is it where I need to be hitting that button? Oh, I just passed it.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, it's like it's purposely trying to mess with you like maybe a little bit too much, where I'm like,
Yeah.
if I memorized this, I'd probably know where it's coming up, but thankfully I got the trophy the first time for getting like whatever the highest rank is, but it was pretty close on some of those where like I think maybe it was the middle one. They have the newscaster lady who's like, the crowd isn't feeling that one. I was like, oh man, I messed this one up. Oh no.
I do
Um,
love the newscast for it too.
yeah,
I forgot what they're called, but it's basically like their CNN equivalent of
yeah, it's like the SNN, like the
something.
Shinra News Net or something like that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but like, there's a lot of like, even the shots of the crowd where some people are like, "Oh, no, did they mean to do that? That was a little rough."
Yeah.
Um, uh, but the end of this, when you finish the parade, Yuffie tries to kill Rufus. Of course, with her amazing, impeccable timing of Rufus finally striking a deal with you, because he knows that Cloud and Tifa and Aerith were the ones that were helming this up, and you get to meet him because you like win the parade thing, and he's like, "All right, look, I got way bigger fish to fry. I genuinely don't care about you. I don't care about the ancient. I just can you leave me alone, and I will leave you alone, and we'll just kind of do our normal thing. Does that sound okay?" And it's like, yeah, that sounds fantastic. Let's make that deal. And then Yuffie tries to kill him, and he's like, "Oh, you betray me! How dare you? How could you?
Yeah.
It's back on." And that leads you to. I kind of liked this where Cloud is running away with a bunch of soldiers and like
To go
hunting
warn
down the
people.
terrorists.
Yeah.
Like, and they're all like, "Let's find these terrorists." And Cloud's like, "Yeah, let's do that. We'll find these terrorists."
Did you manage to keep them all alive?
I did because
Okay, so did I. Yeah.
I'm glad. I didn't realize until maybe the second or third fight that you could heal them,
Yep.
including with items. And I was like, at this point, I'm going to keep all these little buddies alive. Like, I'm
That
not.
was my whole thing. It's like, man, these guys are following me to the
Yep,
doors of hell and back. Like
that's right.
we are getting through this.
I got to
Like,
take
even though
care of
we're going
them.
to be enemies as soon as you figure out who I am.
Yep. So we sort of have this two scenes happening at the same time where you're running away with all these soldiers and you're trying to hunt down the terrorists. You fight Roche again in a fight that was actually pretty interesting. I feel like
Yeah.
it turned out to be more interesting than some of the stuff in the first one.
The weird arena
Yeah,
cage match.
the circular
Yeah.
motorbike arena thing. I did forget to mention that we did see the high wind. That is
Oh yeah.
way bigger than I was expecting it to be, which was incredible.
That was another amazing moment of I am going to stand here and walk around this thing and take in every detail
Yeah,
of that thing. It's
oh,
even
it's
like the
so good.
dumb little jet planes and tanks and stuff that weren't in the original, but it was still cool to see. It's like, oh yeah, it's like this steampunk jet engine with
Right,
like this massive Gatling gun sticking out of the nose of it.
right. Um, while you're doing that at the same time, and kind of while you're doing the parade stuff, Rufus shoots Junon's cannon, which numerous people have been telling him, like, "Hey man, if you want to start a war with, if you want to restart the war with Wutai, this will definitely break the ceasefire that you got going on. You probably shouldn't be doing that." And he's like, "Yeah, yada, shoot the gun," which looks pretty stinking cool, man.
Yeah,
Like,
which is bringing it back to the original, they didn't do this in the original. The only other
Right.
time you see it get shot is when they move it to take
Mm-hmm.
on the ultimate weapon.
Right, because they shoot like a giant like green
Because
shot
they
out of it.
spoilers for the third game that hasn't come out yet. They
Right.
move it to Midgar and set up all other, what is it, six? Yeah, six reactors to the Mako gun and just
Right.
make it like a super sister ray.
It's like an Evangelion thing where it's like I'm taking the
Yeah.
power from Japan's power grid and shooting this thing.
I mean, it looked super sweet, and I am looking
Yeah.
forward to seeing that in 4K in the future. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it was still interesting, especially when they're priming to shoot it, and you start to see like all the dust and settlement like kind of start to
So
shake off
cool.
of the barrel. It's like, man,
Yeah.
it is the most impractical weapon ever
I know.
made, but it is so cool. And
Yeah.
seeing, did you see in the shop how they had the like the 1/100th model
Yeah,
of the sister ray
scale
that you could
model of
buy?
it. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, and it's interesting too because this is they talk about it a little bit before this, but not a ton. But this is kind of the introduction of, you know, the war between Shinra essentially, but really Midgar and Wutai isn't going super well for either side, which
Yeah.
is surprising Shinra, and the ceasefire they're under is pretty tense at the moment. And we kind of deal with that as the game goes on, but it's interesting that they have more of a focus on it in this one, especially this early.
Yeah.
So that finishes chapter 4. We'll move on to chapter the famous chapter 5, Blood in the Water, where you're on the Shinra 8 cruise ship, taking you over to Costa del Sol, which this time is a like luxury vacation liner.
Yeah, it's a Disney cruise.
Yeah, it's
Really weird.
it's pretty wild, and I love this. Is probably one of my favorite chapters in the game because you have the Queen's Blood Invitational, which number one, you get to play a lot of Queen's Blood, and I really like Queen's Blood a lot. But I thought we talked about this a little bit on the main show. I thought the main thing here was going to be the like Cloud Superfan that you register with to do the next round in the Invitational, who like has a pin. He's like, yeah, go Cloud, and then he has like the face paintings. He has all this like a giant sash,
You get, like, the
and
sash
stuff.
and yeah.
Yeah, like he has a whole
it
bunch of
was
stuff.
a treat going back to that guy every time for the next round.
Yeah, because at the beginning he's like, "Oh yeah, here we go. We're gonna do an invitational. Whoopity doo." But at the end he's like, "I'm your biggest fan, Cloud. Like I really need you to win." I thought that was gonna be the high point, and you fight that lady that looks like she's straight out of the Bouncer from the PS2 game.
Yeah, and it was really weird because they were kind of hyping her up to be not human as well. Like there was some
definitely
things that they
something going on.
mentioned where she seemed like she was another like robot, like Chadley, randomly, but they didn't do anything with it.
Yeah, she just like farts off once you get to Costa del Sol, and it's just like, I hate you, bye.
Yeah, but she's a cool character model.
Yeah.
And I was not surprised that she was your final opponent until the true final boss showed up.
I love this so much that they're just like, here's a special fighter, and I'm like, please, I'm kind of done playing Queen's Blood. Like, I did really well. I feel like my luck is running out with these battles. Like, the last one I had to start 2 or 3 times to finish, like, in the middle of the battle. I don't know if I want to do another one. And then Red 13 wearing a soldier's outfit walking on 2 feet. I'm just like, nope, I take it back. This is incredible. This is so good.
Worth it. As he
starts
my God. Michael Jackson dancing, wall talking. Oh my God. And then seeing him try to sit down and figure that out as well.
And even Cloud is like, what are you going to do, man? How is this going to work?
It's like, oh my God. This
so good.
This game does well with humor.
Yes,
right now.
It's the right amount of stupid to try and like balance the kind of intense stuff that just happened. It's like, yeah, you've already seen Red 13 riding on a chocobo like a person. What if he walked around like a person too? And like, to be clear, there's a little bit of that in the original. Like he's kind of like shuffling in the background of a couple shots, but like nothing to this level that they do here.
which is I am glad because I was looking forward to seeing how they handled Red 13 hiding in a uniform, and I
Right.
was not disappointed at
No, they went
all. It
above and beyond.
yes, far above expectations.
We do get some scenes here. There's kind of a big thing that happens here where fiends start attacking the boat, and then they start merging, fusing,
Yeah.
combining with the men in black robes, and turning into like some like Genova monsters. It's
Yeah, it's
interesting.
weird. And I had it in the note too that this didn't happen in the original,
Right,
the fusing between the two.
right.
And even the boss, this is still a Genova boss, but it was because they were merged together.
Mm-hmm.
In the original, the Genova boss was just a piece of Genova that got left behind by Sephiroth in the boat.
Right.
And in this game, what is it? In this game, it's Genova Emergent.
Yep.
In the original, it was just Genova Birth.
Yeah. And like
So
I was surprised because I forgot about the Genova fight in the bottom of the boat in the original, and when you start fighting, it was like, oh, that's right. Like you have a weird boss fight on the ocean,
yeah,
and they get kind of close to the original one because Sephiroth shows up. And like it seems like it's another thing where maybe only Cloud sees him, because a lot of times the rest of the party just sees a black robe, and Cloud is like, "Oh my, it's Sephiroth! Sephiroth is coming for me!" And everyone's like, "Bro, it's just like it's a dude, it's a bald dude in
or
a
is this it?
robe."
Yeah,
Like,
or sometimes there's like not even anything there, and Cloud starts
right,
freaking out about like we can see Cloud's perspective of Sephiroth being there, but everyone else in the party just kind of seems to be staring in the same spot, going,
yeah, like,
"Okay,
bro, are you all right?
yeah,
So this is
the
this is
ninjas won't hurt you."
this is right. So that's kind of an interesting boss fight, and we get a little bit more Sephiroth there. And when we land in Costa del Sol, we do Chapter 6, Fool's Paradise. Johnny shows back up, and he's
Yes.
sort of running a hotel, maybe against his will, kind of.
He got ripped off. Yeah.
Yeah, he got ripped off by the mayor, who's like also a Shinra employee, because of course he is, and he like pulled the wool over Johnny's eyes, be like, you want to run a hotel? That's really great. I have this wonderful property. You only owe me like 300,000 gil. And Johnny's like, sounds great, boss. Let's do it. It's just like,
Yep.
oh, Johnny, you poor guy.
Yeah. But I'm glad once we could help him out with that
Yes.
whole mission set for him, because
Mhm.
eventually it does turn into something kind of cool.
Yeah, and
But
like,
yeah, it's like the way you get to him is you have to like shimmy in between all these boxes to get
yeah,
behind a building that his hotel is kind of tucked
yeah.
behind and around. So,
It's like the one time I'm okay with like shimmying through sideways through like some boxes, because
yeah.
it makes the joke way better.
Yeah.
I this is kind of an extended minigame section here where you're collecting companion cars to trade in for swimsuits, so that kind of the boys team and the girls team can go and get changed here, and kind of get a relaxing day on the beach, contrary to what Cloud really wants to do. Cloud just wants to, let's keep following the black
Yep.
robes. So we do all that. Some of these mini games are, I kind of liked the pirate shooting one. I thought that one was kind of fun.
That one was the one with Red 13 was all right once I finally figured out what I was supposed to be doing.
Yeah,
Um,
I sank a couple of balls into my own goal before I figured out, like, oh, all of the goals are on. Okay, now
yeah,
all right, sure, now I can win this one.
and then
Watching Red 13 get like feral over the like piece of ham or whatever it is. He's
yeah,
just like, I really need that thing. And it's like, all right, buddy, we'll win it for you. Don't worry.
it
We'll take
it
care of you.
is it is funny, especially later on, how he has like all these different personality traits. Where it's
Mhm.
like to you, he's like this old wise kind of man, but the
Right.
moment he smells that cooked cured ham,
Grrr.
yeah,
Yeah,
he's like just feral at it.
and also, I really love that it's the voice actor making growling noises. It's not like a dog's growl noises.
Yeah.
It's just a voice actor going like, grrr. It's like,
Yeah,
all right, that's pretty good.
I love Red. I always have. He's always been an
Red's
interesting
great.
character. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
We
yeah,
do.
outside of that, I think there was a little bit more Queen's Blood, and then there was like the
Yep.
little kind of side mini game of using the Segway, like a certain like to
Yeah,
hit your
like
meter rank.
yeah, meter rank. You had to park a bunch of them. There's like
Yeah.
one more that I don't remember. I kind of liked the Queen's Blood
Oh, the picture
puzzles.
one, the
Oh, the
picture of the
picture one.
cactars. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people online having trouble finding those cactars. I really had no trouble. I feel like
No.
I feel like this is like a JRPG thing where it's like, oh, okay, here's going to be the annoying mini game I have to do. I'm going to look at all the places that I don't expect the picture to be. Like, I'm going to look
Yeah.
at the sky. Oh, it's this giant one that's on the side of this mountain. I'm going to look for something super tiny. Oh, here it is. You guys are trying to trick me.
Yeah. I
So,
think I just found them because I was just taking in the town,
yeah, it
like
looks
just all the
really
dumb
good.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, they did a really good job of just like, hey, here's the town that's kind of vaguely laid out the same way it was in 2D. So it's like
Hmm.
go have fun. It's
Right.
like okay.
You do fight a boss fight here, the gastropod, the like mechanical thing that's trapping the entire party.
Yep.
Yuffie joins the party here and then turns uh,
Doesn't know where
Johnny,
to move. Yeah.
yeah, like into a bunch of fake Johnnies here, which comes up later here as the fake Johnnies have not left in a way that's really pretty great.
Yep.
Um,
I
uh,
did I did throw in a note that in
yes,
the original you could buy the Shinra President Beach House
I
for
forgot about this.
300,000 gil, and it does absolutely nothing for you.
Right.
In the original game, there was just items in the basement that you could grab, which you could do without buying the place. So it was just kind of
Okay.
like, ah, I've got money, let me throw it at it. But
Right.
it was funny though, finding out that the amount for the building you could buy in the original was the amount that Johnny bought the busted up hotel for.
Oh, that's true. That's a good point.
So yeah,
Yeah. So once you get all that done and you leave town, you're into chapter 7, those left behind. This is where you get access to the Costa del Sol open world area.
yep.
You I really like this sequence of climbing up this mountain where everybody kind of splits off, and it's like, isn't it Barrett and Yuffie go off by themselves to climb up
Yes.
one way? And apparently Yuffie is like way into climbing up this mountain with this
Well,
unending amount of energy.
it was because they were worried about Aerith, because she doesn't have the stamina to keep up
Oh,
with
right.
everybody. So yeah, it was Yuffie decides that she's going to take point because hey, there's a Mako reactor in the distance. There's got to be materia, and Barrett's like,
That's right.
no, like we are going through.
Yeah.
And so yeah, Tifa goes after them as well to kind of help corral both of
Right.
them. So it's you, Aerith, and Red 13.
Right.
Which anytime with Aerith, I enjoy. The
She's great.
voice actress for Aerith, I absolutely love. She
Yeah.
does a really great job.
Yeah.
Especially when they're climbing and she's talking. It's like, I can't even feel how heavy I am anymore. This is great. And Cloud starts getting worried, and Red's like, don't worry, if she falls, I'll grab her.
Yeah,
And it's
he's
like,
like, she's gonna pass out pretty soon. We'll just carry her.
yeah.
Like, it's so good. You get a boss fight here, Custom Valkyrie, which is kind of like a Shinra machine boss fight that I thought was pretty okay.
Yeah.
That was sort of an interesting one.
It was just a pain
This,
because it flew really high a lot of the
yeah,
times.
God,
And yeah.
spending a
And I
lot of that
couldn't,
fight playing as Aerith.
yeah, exactly. I couldn't, and I don't know if you ever did or if it's even possible, but every once in a while, Cloud will be able to like throw energy from his sword, and
Yeah, it's
that's
like
kind of his
green,
ranged.
like Master Sword Zelda bolts
Yeah,
that he can fling.
but
I have
it
no idea how to
doesn't.
do that.
Yeah, it happens every once in a while, and I could never figure out how to activate it or if it's even something we can activate. If it's just
Right.
like a random situation thing,
Half the
but
time when I didn't want him to do it is when he would do it. When I'm like, just dash across the field to go fight the boss on the ground.
yeah,
He's like, I'm back here, shing, 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 shing. It's like, no, please just go over there. God. This is the first time we get mention of the weapons because we run
yes,
across a abandoned slash destroyed Mako reactor on the outskirts of Corel, and there's some information here. I think this is when we get to see the first
yes.
weapon, right? Because it leaps out, and
It's a whole different kind of thing.
Yeah, like I was wondering when they were gonna get to the weapons, because the weapons are not just as like super bosses, but as story elements. They're pretty big in the original game. Um, but I wasn't sure if they were going to introduce them this early, and seeing them was pretty surprising because, like you said, they're very different.
Yeah, and I think what they're in my mind, I think what they're doing is they are just showing you these types of weapons, but they're not Ultimate, Ruby, and Emerald,
Right,
which are the
exactly.
main weapons. Because that
Right.
doesn't happen until I think they don't unlock until you fall into the live stream. I think
It's very
that's when
late,
they
yeah.
finally pop up.
Yeah.
So it was interesting to see the massive. I'm just going to assume materia that they
Yeah,
all
like most
have.
of their chest, because they kind of look like, if anyone's listening to this and you didn't play the game, they look like giant whales, basically, but the middle of them, like their entire belly area is just a huge, like bigger than life green materia.
Yeah,
Which I
which
thought
I
is a cool
can't.
design.
Yeah, and I can't imagine what attack materia that
Yeah,
is being that
exactly.
big.
It's just cure.
Yeah.
So we get some of that. At the same time, we're getting, this hasn't really happened in the game before, but we're getting this side cutscene where the game kind of fades out and fades back in with Zack and his storyline, where Zack is letting Aerith's mother, Althena, is her name, something like
I
that,
believe so.
into his little shack where he has Cloud and Aerith laying there, like trying to figure out what their recovery is going to look like. Um, she's mad that he's not really taking care of them, and it's basically saying like, pick them up, let's go back to my house. I've, we'll be able to take better care of them together there.
Yeah.
And he sort of reluctantly agrees to that because he doesn't really know who she is.
I think this is when we find out about the sky too.
I think there's a little bit of Sky stuff too. Yeah,
Yeah,
we're sort of
that
like,
they don't full on draw attention to it. I think it's just like the camera pans, and then you as the player are like, "What is that?"
yeah, because I don't think it's here. It might be later, where or like when you're walking around town, people are just like, "Yeah, it's the end of the world. Have you
Yeah,
seen the sky?" It's like, okay, sure.
yeah.
We get an interesting dungeon here with Yuffie and Barrett. This is the one where you get to primarily play as Yuffie, kind of swinging around and puzzle solving. Where it's like, I'm gonna use this grappling hook, swing over here, do a bunch of stuff solo, and then kind of come back and do like a Yuffie Barrett Tifa kind of thing. Um, I'm happy that they kept the fighting with Yuffie the same as was in
Intergrade,
Intergrade,
intermission. Yeah, whichever one.
whichever the
Yeah,
remakes DLC, whichever one
yeah,
it is. I'm happy that they kept that the same because I think that's fun. And
yeah.
I used her quite a bit, especially in the very last boss battle where she was
Th- that
incredibly
is
useful.
that is something that I enjoy. That each of the characters have their own unique fight style to
Yes,
them. None of
yeah,
them play like they are all within the bounds of yes, they attack, yes, they can cast magic, yes,
hmm
they have like a synergy. But like with Yuffie specifically, you can throw her weapon and that changes her move set until you
right,
call back that weapon.
yeah, and
And
like
it's
Tifa is a hand-to-hand fighter. Red 13 is like a very fast fighter.
very
Um,
fast, but he also has the whole thing with his vengeance meter where that builds
yes,
up with you blocking, which I blocking sucks in this game. There's no way around
I'm
it. It is horrific.
I never use it
Um,
unless the boss is basically like, I'm building up a big attack. It's like, oh, I should
there,
probably block. Okay,
but even then, it feels like you can't just hold it
right,
because that's also the button you use for synergy. So it's like you have like
drives me
this
crazy.
little, yeah, you have like this little 1 maybe 2 second window of
Yep,
you hit block and they're blocking, and then outside of that window, they're no longer blocking anymore. They're just
right,
moving around, which sucks.
yeah,
But yeah, so they all have like little caveats and little fun things for you to try that are different from one another, which
yeah,
has made it interesting.
and it's nice that each one of them is different because there are going to be sequences like this one where you're playing as just one character by themselves. So it's
Yep.
kind of fun to be like, no, it's not just 7 party members all have a sword and they all play like Cloud. You're not only getting kind of a bigger backstory for a lot of these characters, but you're getting kind of something a little bit different here.
And they all have like different requirements for certain move sets and stuff like that.
That's
too.
true.
So yeah.
You fight a boss called a Gigatris who's protecting these little chocobo babies. You have a minecart ride where you get to pick which path you want to go. The more exciting one for Barrett, the less exciting one for the very motion sick Yuffie, which is kind of a pretty good running joke through the rest of the game.
Which one did you go with?
I went with the easier one for Yuffie because I felt
I did too.
I'm already being okay with Barrett. Let's give Yuffie a little bit of help.
I was feeling bad for her.
Yeah, she's real miserable through most of this game. I feel badly.
What did you feel about Cloud Jr.?
Cloud Jr. is awfully cute. Like I looked at when she's like, "Oh, it looks just like Cloud." His reaction is, "Kill me."
Yeah,
just like it's so good. But this kind of ends at North Corel, kind of the final stop here for your trip to Gold Saucer and the beginning of Chapter 8, All That Glitters. This is probably the next couple of chapters is like the part of this game that I really wasn't looking forward to. Because I think getting all of this backstory and getting all of this stuff about Barrett, I never really liked in the original, and I think it's done a little bit better here. I like that the whole town hates Barrett because of his backstory about like, yeah, let's do the reactor. Whoops, it destroyed the whole town and killed a whole bunch of people. I like the additional thing here of you running into the doctor that helped Tifa back to life after the Nibelheim thing. I thought that was a really great addition to this, of just like some bad stuff happened in this town, especially regarding Barrett, but something good happened here, and you get to kind of like, you get to see this doctor again and say like, hey, thank you for saving my life. You get to have something a little bit more positive here other than like, screw you, Barrett, you suck, you're the worst.
Yeah, and this is one of two things from both the original and in Rebirth where the story doesn't really make sense, because both in the original and here, it's pointed out that, like, the whole village voted for Shinra to come in and make this reactor. Like, Dine was the only person holding out for not wanting the reactor. He wanted to keep mining. Everyone else in the village wanted it. And as soon as it goes south, it's Dine and Barrett's fault.
And like one of them dies, so it's like, yep, it's Barrett's fault. It's just like,
no,
wait, hold on.
Screw you.
I'm not even the mayor. Why are you mad at me?
So it was this one, and like I said, we'll come up on another one later on too, that I just thought was weird.
Yeah.
In the original and this, and I thought it was kind of funny that they kept it the same way. Pretty much. So
So when you get into Gold, because a lot of this, the town is basically like, pick up some side quests. Everybody hates Barrett. Let's go on the kind of gondola ride to the Gold Saucer, which I'm really glad they had an incredibly cool cutscene of you leaving North Corel and getting to Gold Saucer with like Ifrit and Shiva like coming next to the thing. There's a ton of
all these
fireworks going off
and stuff.
Yeah, like all the
chocobo
cool
race happening around you.
It's so cool, because I felt like with the original, that was such a cool cutscene. It's like, are you going to do that again? It's like, yeah, here's another there's very few pre-rendered cutscenes in this game. This is definitely one of those of like, all right, we're going to flex our muscles like a little bit here. Like, the game looks incredible by itself. Reminder that Cloud has double the amount of polygons he did in the previous game. Like, this game looks really good. And it's like, all right, here's a cutscene that looks even better. It's like, dang. All right, here we go. As soon as you get to Gold Saucer, not only do you do like a hilarious like everybody knows how to do this dance like scene sort of thing, but you meet Dio, the park director, the like super muscly dude who was he in the original? I don't remember him.
Yes, he was, and he was also the park director for back then too.
Okay. I gotta replay the original because he is so good in this.
And he is massive.
He's so
Like
big.
even
And
Barrett's like the biggest person you have in the party, and I think
mhm,
Barrett still comes up to like his shoulder,
right.
maybe.
And like we'll talk about it a little bit later about like uh the surprising uses of jiggle physics in this game that they do not apply to the one character you think they would.
Hmm.
They definitely apply to Dio with him like making his pecs dance, and it's just like, all right, that's pretty. You're okay, Dio. Like a little bit weird and overbearing, but sure, why not?
Yes.
Um, you get to learn the boxing mini game here, which is actually pretty well done, I think.
Yeah,
Um,
it takes a little bit to get used to the, figuring out the tells that you need to see
right,
beforehand to know what you need to do.
right.
Because I know fighting, what is it? Once you get done with all this and you actually go in and play the mini game later when you find it,
Hmm.
fighting, I think it was like the third enemy. Like that took me a couple of tries
That
to
was pretty
finally get
tough.
that down. But
Yeah,
yeah, in this though, it was pretty cool to see how they did it. It was their stupid little polygons again.
oh,
And
so good,
dude,
great.
between this and the Fort Condo fighting stuff, like the
Yep,
little mini game,
yep.
seeing them back in polygons, which by the way had more polygons than the original
Yes,
Polygon game.
that's right. You do meet Kate Sith here, in his incredible Scottish accent, which is
Mhm.
really great.
Amazing.
Um, his first thing that he sort of deals with here is hacking the ghostly hotel's computer to get you a room. And he basically like tippy tappy types and says like, "Oh, don't worry, I found your. Why don't you check your records again? You might have an open room." I like that later you find out that that's Palmer's room, like Director
Hmm.
Palmer, who just like the original game, just kind of gets a little bit screwed over this entire game. Um,
Yeah, I mean
it's
he kind of sucks, but
yeah,
he's like the brunt of most of the side crap that's happening.
yep,
So, well, man, the Golden Saucer in general felt like a real amusement park,
yes,
especially with like the hotel
mm,
and the theming for that, and how the concierge was dangling from the ceiling to see you,
yep.
and the room that you get, the Tonberry room.
The
I would love to have that room, especially with the Tonberry humidifier
the
following you
Tom Berry
around.
humidifier is so good
My
because like
God.
it walking around, I was like, "What is this thing?" And it just stops and goes out the top of it, and it's like,
Yeah,
"That's really good."
while it
you
keeps
can,
threatening to kill you.
yeah, that's
And
so good.
did you see what its little charging station looks like?
No,
It's the Tomberry icon on the floor,
oh, that's so
and
good.
he rolls to it, turns around and faces you, and he starts charging.
Oh, that's really good. Oh man. Um, Cloud goes to sleep, and we have a side cutscene here where Zack is taking care of Cloud and Aerith in Elmira's house. Um, Elmira tells Zack that Biggs survived the whole like Sector 7 avalanche stuff and that he is still on the run. And Zack is sort of like, well, of course I gotta go talk to him, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of where that ends. Um, you go on your first of two dates here with basically, my understanding, whoever has the highest relationship in your party. So you go do
Probably.
some side stuff. You do that interesting like space shooting game that's
Yeah.
sort of okay. You kind of check out a couple of things. Half of the stuff is closed in the park. Um, but once you do that, you have this whole scene where a bunch of Shinra soldiers get shot up in like a back alley because Barrett isn't with you this entire time because he thinks he sees something and goes off to investigate.
Yeah, I think
Uh,
he sees Dine.
yeah, he sees someone and he's like, "Oh, is that Dine?" And he kind of leaves the party for an extended period. Um, so this whole thing is like Dio is basically like, "Hey man, security footage has a dude with a gun arm shooting all these dudes up. Sounds an awful like somebody that came in with you, so you need to figure it out, or I'm going to turn you over to Shinra, and I don't really care what happens. So, good luck.
Yep.
Go to Corel Prison
I was
and
say
go
he
do that
slaps on a
stuff.
bracelet on Cloud,
That's
which
right.
basically tracks him and lets
Right.
him know, and tells him, "Hey, don't remove this. It'll go
Right.
boom."
Yep.
Kind of thing. And then and then we get dumped down to Corel Prison.
I I really don't like this scene in the original. I really didn't like it here either. Gus, the leader guy, I know it's on purpose. He super sucks. Like just this, like, what's up, man? Like this, like alpha bro, like slimy dude. I
Yep.
really don't like
Anything
him.
that happens down here happens because I let it happen.
Yeah,
And
like
yeah.
ugh, the worst.
Hmm.
Um, Basically, this is another area where you have to do a bunch of side quests to get some food for this chocobo so that you can ride it in the race. Nothing super of note here. You have like the
Yeah.
box breaking mini game that comes back from remake. You're playing some Queen's Blood. You're doing a like who's telling the truth, who's lying thing that I just looked up because you can tell basically.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't gonna run around the town again. I'm like, I need to be done with this so the story can keep clipping because this is pretty rough here. Um, you do get to run your first chocobo race, which I talked about before. I am really tickled that you can drift these chocobos, which I think is like Mario Kart, like shooting up blue sparks, drifting
Yeah.
these chocobos. It's wild.
It was surprisingly well done.
Yeah.
Because in the original it was kind of janky,
Mm-hmm.
and you didn't really like. You basically had run or coast,
Right.
and that was it. And you were coasting to like regain your stamina so that you could continue running, kind of thing.
Right.
Here it's like, yeah, it was straight up Mario Kart with
Yeah.
chocobos, and I'm
It's
not against that. So
it's really good.
yeah.
Um, so you run the chocobo race. I won the first one because it was pretty easy. I feel like you're almost
Yeah.
guaranteed to win it.
Yeah, I ran
Um,
the simulator just to make sure I had the controls right, which is
Me
really
too.
funny because the simulator basically looks like those MotoGP arcade cabinets,
Yep.
but it's like the the body of a chocobo with the saddle but no head or
It's
anything, kind
really
of. Yeah,
good.
it's like
Yeah.
what are those the buffalo or the bull riding mechanical
Yeah,
bull
yeah.
riding things? That's
Like
what
a
it was. Yeah,
combination of like super hang on and a bull, like a
yeah.
mechanical bull.
It was
Yeah.
really funny just seeing that in the corner of the room. It's like, well, yeah, I'm gonna go check that
Yeah,
out.
I need to see what that one does. So we do that. We get into this whole like Barrett and Dine thing again. We have this big Dine boss fight in like the Barrett backstory. That boss fight was really weird. He's like shooting out a ton of stuff and like a ton of missiles and lasers and stuff. And I'm like,
Yeah.
what are we doing
And
here?
you could hide behind some stuff, but you couldn't hide back there very long because Dime would blow it up, and then you had like
Yeah.
these really big area of effect attacks that this dude was shooting out, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it was odd,
Yeah.
but
And like a whole bunch of this is really strange and like we get some backstory here. I don't remember this being the case in the original of Scarlet being such an important part of the like the issues between Dine and Barrett and kind of the downfall of North Corel. That
yeah,
might have been the case in the original, but I don't really remember. Um,
I don't
she's
either off the top of my head.
she's a much larger part of the game in this one, which I appreciate.
Yeah, because you
Uh,
only see her like a couple of times in the original. There's a big fight that's coming up with Sister Ray in the next game that I'm very interested to
yes.
see.
Oh my god, I totally forgot about that one. Man.
But yeah, so she shows up, you're fighting Dine, and then Shinra comes in to interrupt, and it turns into a whole thing of, oh yeah, you're now the rest of your party is keeping Shinra off of Barrett's and Dine's back while they sort
Right.
out their crap.
Right.
And Palmer shows up in
Hmm.
his big thing,
He's having a hissy fit because
his
someone took
room.
his hotel room.
Yeah, which is funny. I did point out that this is actually supposed to be the fight that happens in Rocket Town.
Right, which that was the big thing because I remember the whole thing in the original about like stopping that train from crashing into Rocket Town and like that whole thing that just got picked up and tossed out
Yeah,
in this game.
yeah. This whole section, which is why at the top I just put events are rebirth only because they've
Yep.
changed like everything that was happening with the prison and Corel and all this
Right.
stuff. Which whatever, it's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, instead of fighting Palmer with a Mako gun, we're fighting Palmer in a mech.
I kind of liked this boss fight because like I like that. I like that he still smacks his butt at you, because that's,
Yes.
to me, that's like such a great part of the original of like, what, Palmer, what are you
But
doing?
we don't. If you remember in the original in Rocket Town, when you fight him, when he's waiting for his turn to attack, he's doing like this dumb little dance
Yes, he
the
is. Yeah.
entire time, and he doesn't do that in this
No,
game.
we do lose that. Yeah. But I thought that boss fight was kind of interesting because you're putting pressure on the mech to have him pop open to then attack him,
Yeah.
which isn't usually kind of how these fights go in these games. And then that is complemented right after by the like buggy chase shooting thing that
Yep.
you get to do right after
Kind
that
of
with Barrett.
doesn't feel great, but
It doesn't control super. It's another. We'll talk about this in a little bit, but kind of one of these things in the game where it's like, oh, there's two control schemes. This one doesn't feel great. Oh, that one feels worse. Okay,
yeah.
great. Yikes.
I think their biggest issue was just they didn't the tracking for the camera and the tracking for the reticle are tracking at the same time instead of being
Yes.
independent of each
Right.
other, and it kind of throws off your aiming, especially when you're turning and the camera starts to pan and then your
Yeah.
reticle is moving with the camera
It's
while
like
you're
off
trying
the
to move it.
screen.
Yeah, it's weird.
and
But
and the whole mini game took, like, the whole sequence takes way longer than it should. Where I'm like, oh, I'm on like my fourth or fifth lap of this. We can keep moving, man.
yeah,
Yeah. We do that. There's a sequence here where Shinra director Reeve changes the wanted poster for the Avalanche members, which is really good. Like seeing the
mm,
like alternate reality versions of Cloud, Tifa, and Barrett are all really good. Um, and then there's a quick scene here where we kind of go back to Zack and he's hunting for Biggs here in the city a little bit, and he kind of sees someone off in the distance that looks like Biggs, and that's where the scene ends. And we move here into Chapter 9, The Planet Stirs. I'm surprised we got the buggy here, because
I am too.
there's a when you first get to Gold Saucer, there's like buggy parking over on the right hand side. I was like, that's a really good reference because we won't get the buggy in this at all. And they're like, yeah, here's the key fob, and I was like, we got the buggy? All right, dang,
Not
sure.
only do we get it, it's massive
So big.
and it can drive to you. You can summon it.
Yep. Yeah, you just do the little like beep beep.
Yeah,
Like,
the only thing that sucks is that it takes like 5 seconds to get on and off of that thing.
yeah.
But they remedy that where it's like you don't have to get off to pickup points anymore. You just drive over them and it
Yep.
automatically picks up whatever item was there. So
Yeah.
it's okay. But
Yeah.
it was fun trying to just blow that thing off of a cliff. Because this is when you start to find certain areas that they won't let you drive through.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and really the buggy is just, hey, you should go across this water to get to Gungaga.
Yeah.
So let's just go drive over there. You get there, you go through like the big jungles around the town itself. You go to town, you meet Cisne of all people, which is really surprising. When I saw her, I was
Yeah.
like, I know who that is. Why is she in this game? That's pretty wild.
why is she in this game and why is she in this area?
Right. So like, it's nice to see her again. Largely focused on what was it? What was the Zack's game again? What was that? The name of
Crisis
that?
Core?
Yeah, Crisis Core.
Yeah.
Sort of a large focus of Crisis Core, and just wild to be like, yeah, I'm at Cisne. I was like, yeah, I know. What's happening?
It was also great if you do any of the side stuff in that area, her cover gets blown.
Oh, great! I gotta go do that.
Yeah, it's specifically with the Turk battle stuff. If you
Oh,
do
okay.
those side things, her cover ends up getting blown, and it's really awesome to see.
Interesting. I'll have to go do those. You have a little scene here where Aerith kind of almost tricks you into talking to Zack's parents to kind of say like, here's another soldier. Boy, they sure look the same. Does this remind you of anything, Cloud? Like someone you knew, my boyfriend, cough, 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 cough.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, no, bye. It's just like,
And this
oh, okay.
this was also the weird part where I think this is where they truly point out in Rebirth that Cloud doesn't know who Zack is.
He doesn't remember anything. Like
Because
there's a
yeah,
not there's
which
not only a huge gap between the Nibelheim incident and waking up where Tifa finds him in Midgar, but
yeah,
like he doesn't remember
like almost a whole year of his life.
spoilers for Final Fantasy VII, but like he doesn't remember the real Nibelheim incident,
Yeah,
including, and we'll get to it in a little bit, but like you're right, he doesn't remember Zack at all. Like Aerith has been talking about like, yeah, my boyfriend Zack, he was a soldier too, blah blah blah. That sort of looks a lot like you, and Cloud's like, okay.
which I only bring it up because in the original, Zack did not have a huge role. Like
Right,
Zack was kind of like like you hear Aerith talk about Zack, how
right,
her first love was also a first class soldier. His name was Zack.
right.
Then if you happen to find like this hidden thing in Nibelheim way towards the end of the game,
Hmm.
there is a cutscene that you can unlock that
Yeah, like
was
in the
hidden.
back of there's like a famous one in the back of a pickup
Yeah,
truck.
and that's
Yeah,
when you see Zack for the very first time at
right,
the end of seven.
right.
So it's like in the original, it was fine that you didn't know that Cloud knew it, but at this point, Zack has been like such an integral part of remake and rebirth that it's
Right.
like, okay, so
You don't
now,
remember this dude at all that like looks a lot like you and you were
yeah,
best friends? That
and you
doesn't
have
ring a
his
bell at
sword.
all.
Yeah,
Yeah, like any of this ring a bell? Yeah. So there's some stuff that happens here, but largely it's there's some booming noises coming from the old dilapidated Gongaga reactor. You got to go check it out. There's like a really long extended sequence where one team goes in, the other team stays back to protect the town from fiends. You fight some boss fights. You switch back to the other team. Cisne gives you some green chocobos to jump on the mushrooms here to get to the reactor. You're doing a bunch of swinging. Like this is a much much longer scene than I would have really expected.
yeah.
Um,
It's a much
but
bigger area too, because in the original,
yes,
it was just a busted reactor.
yeah, it was like
Scarlet
one
walks up,
screen.
she sticks her hand in it, pulls
Mm,
out a piece of material, says this is garbage, tosses it, and walks away. And
yeah,
then you walk over and grab it, and I think that's how you get the what is it, the Kajato summon,
yeah. I don't remember what that one is called, but yeah,
the
I think it is a
bull
summon. Yeah,
thing, yeah.
yeah,
So it was interesting to see them actually turn this into a big giant reactor
yeah,
that something was going on in.
yeah. And like the whole big thing here is basically leading up to you fighting with Scarlet, the Mare Mark II fight where Scarlet is like suddenly in a mech, um, and you're
She's
having
full
a
Gundam on you.
yeah, and like it's a very long boss fight because you're kind of like fighting the hands, and you're fighting the mech itself, and you're fighting Scarlet. Like I had a hard time with this boss fight, kind of overall, because it feels like I played this whole game on easy, and it felt like this boss had like 50 billion hit points, like
Yeah,
way more than anything else you fought in the rest of
it's
the game.
definitely a damage sponge.
Yeah. And this kind of all leads up to Cloud is having a really hard time, and he's like having an exceptionally hard time, like being near all this Mako is doing something to him, and he's kind of struggling, and he's really out of it. And in him trying to protect Tifa from getting attacked by Scarlet and Shinra forces, he like brutally murders all of these Shinra forces. There's like a bunch of blood on his face, and he's really losing it. He's really out of it.
He's kind of
Um,
enjoying it a little bit.
he is, yeah, and like Tifa halfway snaps him out of it, but then Sephiroth is like whispering in his ear, is like, "Don't listen to her.
Yeah.
She's like an alpha male on the internet. Like they're not real. Don't listen to them." He's like, "Yeah, you're not real. Like, you're not even. What are you talking to me about?" And she like shows him. This is where she shows him the scar again, and you don't see it again. And
Hmm.
I can't tell if he believes it or not, but it doesn't really snap him out. And he knocks her into the Mako like
He straight up
tank.
attacks her with his sword.
Yeah, he
Like
like
I yelled at the screen. I'm
I
like,
was like, "No,
dude,
Tifa,
what?
no! What are you you doing? And he like attacks her into the kind of reactor Mako pit. And then we have a series of confusing scenes where Tifa is maybe dead or not, and like reliving her life and kind of the Nibelheim incident, along with like when Tifa fell down the mountain where Cloud was trying to save her, and growing up in Nibelheim, and then she's inside the belly of the weapon in the materia thing.
It's all done in like a really like Tim Burton way, where it's like you're not getting full scenes, you're getting like pathways to a scene.
Right. Two people like sitting in the ether over here.
Yeah. And it was really interesting watching her, and it seems like at this point that she unlocked more of her memories.
Yes.
Not a ton more, but at least a little bit more to now she's questioning not only her memories but and Cloud's, but she's starting to question the events that have been happening up to this point.
Right.
And then we get this cool and confusing thing with the Whispers again.
Yeah, we now are introduced to a new set of Whispers where we're seeing the kind of black Whispers from Remake fighting with these brand new white Whispers, that the two groups seem to be fighting with each other, and the weapons are trying to help the planet, but they can't really because the two of them are fighting, and then Sephiroth is there, and like Sephiroth tries to kill a weapon, and Tifa's in the middle. Like, there's a lot happening, but you're kind of only getting half of the information. Yeah, it's interesting.
The Whispers to this point still haven't been fully explained at all. Like we know that Sephiroth is doing something with the Black Whispers since the end of Remake, but we don't fully understand what.
And they haven't showed up very much in this game until this point.
Because it was originally thought that the Whispers were kind of the things that were trying to keep the story on track with how it went in the original game.
Right.
But now it seems like the black ones are doing what Sephiroth wants them to do, and the white ones are kind of trying to keep them on track, but not really.
Yeah, and it's like
this.
Maybe they're protectors of the planet as opposed to the black ones are like protecting Sephiroth and following him. Like, it's all kind of understandably
kind of two extra jumbled. Parties that we don't know what's really happening, but they're intervening.
Right.
So,
and Tifa kind of understands it a little bit, but not a whole lot.
Yeah.
So eventually the weapon comes out and like spits out Tifa, and she's fine. She's fine, largely fine, but kind of out of it. And both her and Cloud need some TLC. And Red 13 is like, you know what? We're super close to where I was born, Cosmo Canyon. Let's go there. I know we can go talk to my people. We can rest. We can recover. Like, that will be a place we're safe from Shinra. They don't really have any influence there. And Cisne says, go over to this airstrip, send up some smoke. This guy, like the only non-Shinra pilot, should be able to help you out. And then you meet Sid.
Yes.
Big old salty favorite Sid, who unsurprisingly isn't smoking this time, which is like, could have seen that coming a mile away. But
it's a small change that doesn't matter. But yes, I still miss him smoking.
He's swearing a lot less.
His rolled up pack of cigarettes in his sleeve, and
like he's swearing a lot less, and he's not a member of your party. But like, you get a lot of interesting stuff from this dude. That's just like, Shinra can try and stop me, but like, they can't control the skies, man. Tiny Bronco, let's go.
You can't stop the signal.
That's right. That's right. So while you're flying over, or like as you're landing, you get a quick scene where Hojo is experimenting on Roche, who seems to be a willing victim of Hojo, which is interesting. So once you land, we get to chapter 10, Watcher of the Veil. This is where you're making your way to Cosmo Canyon. You have some blue chocobos. You've got...
I've been looking forward to getting to Cosmo Canyon solely for the music.
My God, like, not only is like the Cosmo Canyon music in the original is probably one of the most famous video game pieces of music of all time. But I was also excited for that. But like the music leading up to the Cosmo Canyon, this like southern kind of bluegrass version of Eris theme was
Yep.
so good. I'm like, man, you guys like really knocked it out of the park with the soundtrack this whole game.
Square does two things very great nowadays. They make very great looking video games and very great soundtracks.
That is true.
The story can vary a lot.
That's right. That's right. You know you're going to get two solid things, and then everything else is pretty variable. One of the biggest surprises of this game, you land in Cosmo Canyon, and Red 13, a.k.a. Nanaki, has a totally different voice.
Because he's a child.
What in the world? Like, we got a little bit of a sneak peek of it when you were at Costa del Sol, because somebody was in Aerith's room talking to her, and it was only Red 13. He was like, hey, bro, what's up? What's going on?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, that was weird. I heard, like, a voice. Okay. But he's like, hey, everybody, it's me. I'm 5, Nanaki. It's just like, what the hell is happening here? Like, this is the one... I had like a very visceral reaction to this. And I'm like, what have you done? This is such a mistake. And I was like, no, like this could have been the case in the original game. We just had 0 voice acting in the original game.
Say, they do mention, I knew this ahead of time, and I don't know how, because yes, like you were saying, there wasn't voice acting in the original, but it was brought up in the original that he is not as old as he is made himself to seem.
Yeah, he is like an actual child.
And I don't know if at that point they changed the writing for him to be a little more lighthearted, because he was always like the serious older man throughout the entire, to this point of the game. So I don't know if maybe they changed the writing, or maybe there was something in Advent Children, the movie, that...
Oh, yeah, I don't remember.
I don't either, and I don't think that's the case. But I know, for some reason, this did not catch me off guard as much as it seemed to everybody else.
Right.
But boy, did I enjoy that voice change.
And it's interesting to see him, like, change his voice throughout the rest of the game depending on who he's near or who he needs to talk to. If he needs to be a kid, if he's talking to Bugenhagen, or if he's like talking to someone he needs to be like a 30-year-old dude.
Because it changes his performance throughout the rest of the game, which I really like. You don't see that a whole lot in general.
No. Yeah.
So
it's really interesting. It's really well done.
Yeah, I think the next closest thing I could approximate it to is like Shazam. True.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. So this whole chapter is pretty long, and we're not going to dive too much into this. Into kind of the nitty-gritty. You do get to meet Bugenhagen, which I think it's wild that they still kept that name. Because people are like, Mr. Bugenhagen. It's like, God, you guys are just saying this normally. That's a real goofy name. All right.
Like it's a thing. Okay.
Yeah, like I love
the fact that they still made him fly.
Yeah, like he's flying on this like giant floating materia. He still goes hoo hoo hoo. Like he still has the like goofy laugh.
Which in the original... Oh, go ahead. Really?
Oh, I really didn't like him in this game because he's immediately a jerk to Tifa, where Tifa's like, hey man, like, here are the weapons. I was inside of one. They're protecting the planet. And goes, that would be a really great story if it were true at all. You're stupid. And I'm like, excuse me? Like, you can't talk to Tifa that way, sir.
He does eventually come back around.
He does
to understanding that she wasn't lying about that.
Right.
And, she does seem to know what she's talking about. But yeah, it was kind of weird bit of sexism there.
Well, and like you have to like immediately after that, he's like, "Why don't you look through all this junk I have in this tower?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, I'll just look through your junk. You're a jerk to Tifa. It's gonna look through all your junk, and look at this stuff about the planet. I'm Bugenhagen." Like.
And then
salty about it.
Here's a random, fossil structure of a red dragon.
Yeah, exactly.
Here.
No big deal.
It was another museum piece.
Mm-hmm.
But I was going to ask, did you think in the original he was hovering on a giant piece of materia?
I could never really tell. It was one of those things where it's like, because it was so low poly, it was always sort of like, is this like a wheelchair? Are you like rolling on something? Are you hovering?
I had always assumed that it was like Professor Xavier's wheelchair, where it was just a
Right,
hover thing that he was standing on the entire time because
right.
his legs didn't work because he was so old. But
Yeah.
when I saw it in this game, it just like clicked. I'm like, okay, I can get behind that being a giant piece of
Yeah,
material. Why
why not?
not?
He's just hanging out, yeah. We kind of get the famous cutscene from the original here where he explains that another great pre-rendered one, where he
Hmm.
explains like the Mako is the lifeblood of the planet. It is the life stream. It kind of people are born from it. When they die, it returns to the planet. That's kind of the natural cycle of things. When Mako is burnt to power things or to use power reactors or whatever Shinra is doing, the Mako doesn't go back to the life stream. Like it's kind of just burnt off and it disappears.
Yeah,
That's gonna not be good for the planet long term. So kind of need to figure this out a little bit.
yeah.
Um,
It's a direct one to fossil fuels
yes,
in
exactly.
nowadays.
Like
So
if it's always funny where people are like, this they're Final Fantasy VII was never really political, and I was like, this is it. This is
yeah,
anti-fossil fuel, like eco-terrorism politics. Like that's what Final
yeah.
Fantasy VII is, and it was the original too. Like, yeah. So we this is followed by the extended sequence of Nanaki uh going through the dungeon to find out about Sato, his dad, the coward,
Yeah.
fighting against running away when the Gi attacked. You have a note here. Never understood why everyone hid this from Red. It's still not super clear in this either, other than he's so young. Don't bother him
Yeah,
about it.
it
But
was
like,
the weirdest thing because he grows up to like fully resent his father for leaving him and his mother behind, and his mother dying defending Cosmo Canyon.
yeah, she defends
And
like
it's
the front of Cosmo Canyon when he
yeah,
ran away.
and it's one of those things where it's like I don't understand why you all let him resent his father when you all full well knew what his
Right.
father was doing.
He
Like
was the big savior. Like,
yeah, it's like I don't understand this at all. And for
right.
them to redo it again in Rebirth, again, I was just like, why were you all hiding this?
Yeah,
Like,
you at least still get the really cool shot of his dad turned to stone with all the spears in him, like
mhm.
off, way off up in the distance. I'm like, man, that's still a really good shot. Like that was
And
great in the original, and whew, that and the new version of that music, 10 out of 10.
yeah, that and with, I felt just like in the original that Nanaki going from fully resenting his father to, oh, I'm fully on board with my dad being cool and all this stuff. Like
Yep,
that was kind of a little too fast, but we still get the scene of Nanaki crying as a stone statue,
right.
which with the revamped music hit
So
pretty
good.
hard, man.
Yep. We do also have the scene where Tifa kind of explains her experience being in Mako, and like there's this just like a workshop where people are like, "Oh, let's talk about how we feel about the planet." And she's like, "I've like been in the planet," and they're like, "That's cute, sweetie. Thanks so much. Can I have
Yeah.
$20 before you leave? Like, don't forget the gift shop." Um,
And
and
I
then we have
really
the
liked Tifa's perspective on this. Of
yeah,
towards
it's a
the end of
great
it, she's
Tifa
like,
scene,
maybe I'm not explaining this well enough.
right?
And it's like, damn, man, like,
It's
yeah,
also like you guys want to sit around and talk about the planet, but like you're not actually doing
doing it.
anything. Like
Yeah,
that. This is not the help that I really needed.
yeah,
There's also a really good speech from Aerith at the bonfire about like what the planet means to her and like her responsibilities and kind of the looming nature of what the game is building up to, basically, of like, is this the end of her journey or not?
yeah.
We have a big dungeon here where it's mainly focused on Red 13. We get the Ginatak boss fight here, and then once you beat him, he's like, "Hey, bro, why don't you follow me? Why don't we go talk about some like Black Materia stuff?" And Sephiroth is basically like, "Yo, Cloud, you need to go with him, my puppet."
Hmm.
And it's like, "Go get to the Black Materia." You get on a boat, then you have a side scene here, another Zack side scene where he and Biggs kind of have a heart to heart about like, why are we still alive? Like, why were we spared? Everybody else is dead or injured or comatose. But also, maybe I don't remember everything. I kind of like showed up, and now we have
Yeah,
our story. Like, what's happening? And both of
it
them are like, I don't know, man. That's
it
weird.
it's very heavily hinted that both Zack and Biggs are not from that, I'm just going to call it dimension or
Right, that
timeline or
timeline.
whatever,
Yeah,
but they're also not from each other's own timeline
right.
either. So they're just kind of like this fish out of water thing of, hey, this sounds kind of crazy, but and then the other one's kind of
But
like,
are you from a
yeah.
different timeline? It's like, yeah, different timelines. Yeah, me. Yeah, what's up? So you get dumped on Spooky Island here. The Gi explain about black materia. They say like, hey, our hatred about not being able to return to the life stream was focused into this black materia. If we can use it to create destruction, that we'll be able to go back to the life stream, right? And everybody's like, bro, no, we need to go get that. Like, so you can't use it, and also I don't think Sephiroth should have that thing either. We should probably, yeah, we'll get it for you. We'll bring it right back. No big deal.
Yep.
Don't worry. We got it handled. Easy peasy. Um, and of course Sephiroth is like, bring me the black materia. You're my puppet. Reunion. Um, and it's probably like the thinnest connection here is basically like, oh, we saw a black robe. Somebody mentioned Nibelheim. Yeah, we should probably go there too. And Cloud and Tifa are like, I don't know.
There's
We
nothing
shouldn't.
there.
We shouldn't do
Yeah.
that because there's like it's just like a smoldering town. Like that should no, we shouldn't. And everybody's like, okay, but we're still like going there. So
Yeah.
getting the tiny Bronco.
The only lead we have, so
Yeah. So that goes into chapter 11 here, The Long Shadow of Shinra. We go to Nibelheim, and hey, it's rebuilt.
yep.
Shock of all shocks. And I like because in the original game, it was like, we rebuilt, we've always lived here.
Yeah.
Like, are you here visiting? It's just, we're just a regular town. And in this one, it's a
Yeah, because
treatment.
I was gonna say that in the original they flat out deny that Tifa and Cloud have ever lived there before.
Right, it's like, we don't remember you. This town has been here forever.
Yeah.
You couldn't have lived here. You know,
Yep.
the Jones have always lived in this building over here.
Yep.
And I like in this one, it's a treatment center for Mako poisoning. Like the black robes are living here, and they're trying to rehabilitate some of them here, which I thought was kind of an interesting change.
It is, and you get like right off the bat, the mayor comes out and greets you, and he knows who who Cloud and Tifa are, and that they
Right.
were original residents, and he pretty much just tells them, "Hey, like everything's been bought and sold by Shinra or to
Right.
Shinra. It's
Right.
like, don't cause any problems."
Yeah, like, I know who you are. Be cool about it. I'm not going to kick you out or anything, but like,
Yeah.
we're doing different important work here, so like, just keep stepping, man.
Because even the shopkeep, when you go to talk to her to just buy whatever you need, she
Mhm.
even mentions when you leave, it's like, "Hey, I know who you are. Don't cause any problems."
Yeah, like, don't come
It's like,
back.
all
We
right.
don't need you here.
Yeah.
So there's a whole sequence here of like, Kate Sith needs to get a Shinra terminal to find out where the Citra Temple is to get the black materia. So let's go to the reactor because this one doesn't work over here, etc., etc., etc. You get a quick side thing here where Heidegger lets Rufus know that the survey team that went to the Nibelheim reactor has been ambushed, and then mustache twirling, it's all part of the plan. So you get a little bit of that. You climb the like Nibelheim mountain again, you go to the reactor, you find the attacked Wutai survey team that has been clearly gunned down. It's not like fiends didn't get them or anything. And you're dealing with kind of the reactor stuff, and then you remember Zack at that point because like something clicks in Cloud's mind about like, oh yeah, there's the river that the one
Yep.
Shinra guy fell in, and that like you get the digital static, and he's like, that was Zack. It's like, wait, who? What? Who is that? Wait,
Yep.
remember something. So you kind of, Cloud is putting the pieces back together, and even Tifa is sort of like, yeah, bro, I remembered that like a long time. Did you not remember what really happened? And he's like, no.
Yeah, he's kind of like, what do you mean? What really happened?
Yeah, he's like,
And
I
at that,
remember what happened, don't I? And
yeah, and at that point, because I think it's right here, he mentions is like, oh, we should tell Aerith that Zack is dead, and Tifa is like, hang on to that thought.
yeah,
Let me do that.
yeah,
Yeah,
let's not do that quite yet, maybe.
yeah.
Um, so you kind of go through the reactor, and then you fight a boss fight, and then it kind of switches over to, you talk to Kate Sith, and you're like, all right, here you go. Now you can get into the Shinra Mansion. And now Kate, Barrett, and Aerith go over and have the worst dungeon in this entire game, hands down. We're using Kate to just chuck stuff around, and it's the
Doesn't
worst.
feel great. Yeah.
It's the worst. But thankfully, you fight like 2 or 3 bosses in there as well. Like they're rough bosses. Thankfully, you meet Vincent Valentine, who has an incredibly cool voice, which is really great.
The whole thing about Vincent was just so awesome to see.
Him
so cool.
Busting
off his coffin cover, like the lid.
Yep.
And then trying to use the transponder or whatever that Kate Sith needs, and he can't get it to work, and Kate Sith like jumps up on his shoulder and is like, boop, power button. There you go, now it'll work.
Thanks, buddy. Like, Vincent's like, who the hell are you? What was going on here? I do like that you get to fight Vincent in his like big, like demon form.
Yeah.
That was pretty surprising. I liked that fight quite a bit.
I don't know what they're gonna, because they've been really weird about the limit breaks so far in the remakes.
Yeah.
And Vincent has 4 of the coolest limit breaks.
That is true.
And I hope we get to use them in whatever the third game is going to be. Because
I hope so, because like when you look at this game, I'm going to assume Sid will not be joining your party in the third game. Also, if you don't call the third game Reunion, I don't know what you're doing. So it should be like Remake, Rebirth, and Reunion. If it's not Reunion, like, I don't know.
I have something to bring up about that after we're done with the notes.
Sure. But I sort of expect Vincent to join your party, kind of like how Yuffie in Red 13 did. But I could see a world where Sid doesn't. He's just like the fast travel dude, because it's like, do you need another person in your party? But I'd be a little bit bummed, because I liked him using this like giant staff in the game and just
especially since his level 4 limit break is him calling in the High Wing and it basically dropping a nuclear bomb on whatever.
True, I forgot about that. I forgot. I'm also watching some of the cutscenes here in the game while we're talking. I forgot Vincent just being like, so you're Murasaki, huh? And Cloud is like, yep. That's
and
me.
He's like, you don't look like him. And he turns the screen around to show him. And he's like, whatever, I don't care. Leave me alone.
You do get some interesting stuff here, though, where Cloud finds, like, tanks of S things, of, like, S DNA and S hair and S, and, like, you get the voiceover of Hojo being like, meh, 1 part of S hair and 1 part of... And it's like, oh, okay, the Sephiroth stuff. Okay, I get it. So you leave the place. You get the upgraded Roche boss fight, which he is struggling, man. Like that was not a super hard boss fight, and he is in bad shape. And
he's got a tattoo, which
he's like one of
automatically clues you in.
S something tattoos or whatever, like the black
like
robe.
S44 or something like that.
And after the fight, he like collapses on the ground. The black robes are like, "Go get him!" And then he turns into a black robe. And it's like, "Oh, dang. Okay, well, bye."
Which kind of ropes in with the whole thing that the doctor was saying back in Corel,
Right.
about the cell degradation. Like, all soldiers have this, and
Yeah.
that's basically what the black robes are
Yeah, they're
people
all going
who's
to turn into a black robe because they're in the
yeah,
cellular degradation. Oof.
and that's the whole thing, which kind of puts a new perspective on what's happening with Cloud and the random fuzziness and like
Right. The
breaking. Is like,
white
is
flashes.
yeah, it's like, is he
Yeah.
degrading now
Well, and you
because of
notice he keeps
this?
looking at his hand and he's never taking his gloves off. Like
Yeah.
what does that look like underneath, you know?
Mm-hmm.
We get a quick side cut here of Glenn showing back up and doing a Wu-Tai broadcast that is exposing Rufus and Shinra's part in the experiments, and then says like, "Oh, I'm the like General Lodbrok of Wu-Tai, and I'm gonna bring Saruf over here, who's like our leader." And Saruf doesn't appear. Saruf, wink, doesn't
Yep.
appear on the broadcast, and like all the Shinra kind of muckety mucks are watching that. After all that, Sid calls you back to the airship and is like, "Hey, by the way, was your mother like Ilfana?" Or she was like, "Oh, yeah, that was me." And like Sid knew Aerith's mom, like her birth mom, not not her mom in
Her
Midgar.
adoptive mom.
Yeah. And it was like, "All right, whatever, like she was cool, we were cool. I feel badly that she passed. I'm gonna take you to back to the gold saucer for free because I'm a nice guy and she was a cool lady." Um, and then you wrote a bunch of stuff here where that
Yeah.
stuff is kind of significantly different from the
Yeah,
original.
Sid never meets Aerith or her mom in the original, and he never sees Aerith until you go to Rocket Town for the first time.
Oh, okay.
So that's the only connection. The reason why this is being brought in is because of that book that I was talking about, which I have. What was it called?
Oh yeah. Trace
The
of Two
Trace of
Paths.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Apparently, in this new book that recently came out in the last couple of years, they mentioned, because Sid used to work for Shinra way back when.
Oh,
So
okay.
they decided that since Sid used to work for Shinra, hey, let's just connect the dots and say, hey, he knew Aerith's mom and he saw Aerith as like a baby or a super young child or whatever, so he's been
Mm,
aware of her.
okay.
And it's weird.
Yeah. If
Uh,
anyone wants to read this book, it came out in March of 2023. There's like digital versions, there's a hardcover version. It's available in English officially, like they're selling it. It's kind of a backstory novel about both Aerith and Tifa. I should pick up one of these and read it. It says it's a
I was
little bit less than 400 pages, so
I
it's
was thinking of
not too
doing that
long.
too, but the problem that I've been having before Remake came out with Final
Mm-hmm.
Fantasy VII and Square is that Square has been doing the Star Wars thing,
Yes.
where it's a giant galaxy,
Mm-hmm.
but somehow we keep parsing it down to like everyone knows everybody in
Right.
this tiny
Jabba the
little
Hutt is
corner
going
of,
to show up again in this side
yeah.
story. Yep.
And it's like, we don't, and they keep doing that with Seven, and that was why, outside of Dirge of Cerberus and Crisis Core, I never played anything else that was Seven
No.
related, because it was just extra crap that they were throwing out there for a money grab, and you could
Right.
tell a lot of the time too.
Yep.
But they started integrating some of the made up stories that they had in there and making that canon now, and it's
Right.
kind of
It's a
weird.
little frustrating.
Yeah, but whatever.
Yeah.
I have the
Um.
original game still. I can live in my fantasy world.
Exactly. So the eventual um goal of that is basically there is a key you need to get into the Citra Temple.
Yep.
We don't know where it went, but it looks like the last person that had it is Dio, the curator
Yep.
of a bunch of artifacts of the gold saucer. So
Oh,
let's
and
go.
that was the other part of my notes too. Before this, in the original, before you go back to the Golden Saucer, this is when you go to Rocket Town. This is when you meet Sid for the first time. This
Gotcha.
is when you get access to the tiny Bronco for the first time.
Okay.
This is when you learn about his not so great past and personality, and
Yeah,
with
right. With like
Shara, and
the
yeah,
failed like rocket launch.
yes, and
Yeah,
how he takes it out on the woman who seems to love him,
right.
and so she's, I don't even think, yeah, she's not even introduced at all so
I
far.
don't think he even mentions her.
No.
No.
So
Interesting.
that whole thing has been skipped in Rebirth.
Right.
Also at this point in the original, it is now, you are now able to go to Wutai. You don't have to do it right now, but this is when it
Right.
first becomes available for you to be able to go to.
Right.
So as soon as you have the tiny Bronco, you can go there.
Yeah. Um. So you go. The tiny Bronco crashes. Sid essentially turns it into like a
A
boat.
boat. It
You go
changes his
back.
name and everything. Thank you for
Yeah,
riding cruise line,
that's right.
whatever.
You go back to the Gold Saucer. Dio got messed up by the Turks, who are also looking for the Keystone. He says, "I'm not going to give it to them. I'll give it to you though, because I think you're pretty cool. But I need you to help me." There's a quick side cutscene here where Marlene tells Zack that he needs to make Cloud better because if Aerith wakes up and Cloud isn't there, Aerith is gonna die. And
Yep.
he's like, "Who's gonna kill her?" And she's like, "It's a guy with like a giant sword and long white hair." And he's like, "Oh, I gotta go."
Hmm.
So, um, he essentially makes a choice like, "I'm gonna go talk to Hojo about Cloud, see if there's a way that we can stop the effects of the cellular degradation. Thank you, Square. And then, oh, Biggs left me a note. He's gonna blow up the Sector 6 reactor. I gotta go do that. Hold on. Wait.
Yep.
Let's go do that. Um, and then this is where get the we go back to the gold saucer. We get the second date here, where we get the kind of famous. Um, you get the Skywheel date with the big cutscene, but before that, you go to the Loveless play, and you
Yes.
get
Which was interesting.
another mini game.
Yep.
this was this was the moment where I was like, please, Square, not everything needs to be a mini game in this game. This is chapter 12. I really just want to see the ending of this game. Can we
And
put the rocket
for
boosters on this one?
and for a thing that has nothing to do, like, it doesn't tie in with any
No.
history, lore, story,
Yeah,
anything. It's just a
Loveless.
random play.
Yeah, Loveless ties into Crisis Core because that's the play that
Yeah.
Angel or whatever one of them really loves, and like it's the one.
What was
I
that
like that you
guy's
get to
name?
see Jessie again because she starred in
Yep.
Loveless, so you get to see her and like
Her
have
portrait
her.
up on the wall and stuff.
And
So.
she's the one that's in the VR headset,
Yep.
the like angel goddess sort of thing.
Yep.
So like it was cool to see her. It's like I forget who mentions it. I think it's your date. That's like, wow, she really was a star. And I was like, she was really good. Dang.
Wait,
Um,
who was your date?
Aerith. I
Yes,
was
that was mine.
I was gunning for Tifa because she's my favorite, but Aerith showed up
I
for both of them.
I have the lore in my head is that Aerith is great,
Hmm.
but she is eternally in love with Zack,
Yes,
and Cloud is
100%.
just kind of a substitute for her. Not in a bad way,
Mm.
but just how it is. And Tifa is always the one for Cloud. That's
Yeah, for
just
me,
how it
it's
plays in
always
my head.
Tifa and Cloud and Aerith and Zack. Like there's
Yep.
double dates, for the rest of the time.
Yep.
Um, so once all that is over, you talk to Dio and he says, "I will give you the Keystone if you fight for me to keep control of Gold Saucer against uh what is his
Corneo.
name? Yeah,
Don
Don
Corneo.
Corneo." And it's just like, oh boy, here he's back.
And
And
this
like,
this is the part in the game just before this. Like, I was already telling you in
mhm,
messages, like, this game has completely lost the thread on what is happening. I am not
yes,
enjoying this game.
yep.
And then we get to this part, and I send you a message like, all right, I'm back on board. This is
Yep.
great. This is what it
And
should
like
have been.
it's what is it? Dutch and Scotch are the two hype men for,
Something, yeah.
and like both of them are even better in this game. And it's like I would watch this show. Those two are great announcers. Like, man,
Hmm.
so you go through like fight after like boss fight after boss fight. You fight Corneo cactars and Corneo tonberries. Like You fight a bunch of really cool stuff. You fight Elena and Rude again. You fight Rufus one-on-one again, which was actually a fairly challenging boss fight.
Yeah.
And then once you get the Keystone, Kate Sith takes it immediately, and you're kind of chasing him around the gold saucer in a very frustrating chase sequence that should have just been a cutscene, Square.
Because you find out, or you realize that while Golden Saucer is not huge, it has levels.
Yes.
Yeah,
and it's a lot of like, where is this tiny cat?
Yeah.
And then Kate betrays you and gives the Keystone to the Turks, and then they leave. And in like the most heartbreaking shot of this game, like Kate Sith is super sad, and it just says like Kate Sith has left the party. And it's just like, oh boy, that's pretty sad.
His moment of when I think it was Aerith said something to him about not, betraying them, and he's like, "Oh, not you too."
Yeah,
and then he's like,
oh,
I knew it was gonna hurt, but not this bad."
Yeah,
it's like, man, come on.
You guys twisting the knife here.
Yeah.
So essentially that leads into the end of this chapter and the beginning of the next chapter, which is, Vincent knows how to use the Tiny Bronco's radio to tap into the communications that the Turks are using to figure out exactly where the temple is. We hear that they're going to the North Continent. Sid says, yeah, I'll take you there. Sure, why not? And then you go there, which, as you wrote in your notes here, is in a significantly different place. Because the North Continent in the original game is the end of the game. That's like the ultimate goal.
There's like 3 things there, which... kind of spoilers for the next game, but there's Bone Village, Icicle Inn, and then the Crater.
Right.
And Bone Village you visit, and that causes a whole different thing that I'm looking forward to. But the Temple of Ancients is actually to the southeast of Golden Saucer, and I double-checked the map in the back of my guide to make sure that I was remembering it correctly. And it's completely opposite, which... whatever, fine. Does it really matter? No, but it's just one of those weird discrepancies that I pointed out. So.
Right. So you go there and you have... This chapter is incredibly long, but the majority of it takes place sort of going back and forth through time as 2 different parties are going through the labyrinth. Which...
An Inception kind of labyrinth.
Yeah, because like I was wondering how they were gonna do this, because in the original game it was a lot of like, I'm walked through a door and now I'm on the ceiling walking across, and now I'm here like in the foreground kind of walking at a 90-degree angle. And I thought that was a cool way of them doing it. Like, you are flipping the dungeon to walk on the ceiling to get to somewhere else to flip it, and now you're walking on the wall, and like Shinra soldiers are flying from top to bottom, but it's pulling them sideways. Like some really, really cool stuff in here.
And another fun bit of comedy of Yuffie. You were walking on, at the time, what is the ground. And you just see off in the distance like a couple Shinra soldiers zipping across the horizon, falling. And Yuffie's like, "Did you see that?" And Barrett's just like, "No, don't acknowledge it. Just keep.
Don't even think about it. Just keep on moving, man." So it's sort of interesting because you're flipping and twisting this dungeon. You get to a boss fight. You fight the Red Dragon, which was a pretty tough boss fight.
Which it was in the original too.
It really was, yeah. And then in one of the weirdest things in this game, like clock gears come up on screen and rewind, and it says several hours prior. And then you play as Aerith and her group that was separated from Cloud and his group. And she is using the life stream to rebuild the temple around them to try and make a path to Cloud and the group, but also to the black materia that appears to be at the center of this temple. And you're
Did you find it kind of weird that they chose to say a few hours earlier and not like 30 minutes ago? Or
yeah, because like I watched the video and it says several hours prior, which is a lot of time.
Yeah, which is an odd time frame. Cause
it's It's odd.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like that, and the characters don't acknowledge that
No.
they've been in there that long, so maybe
Yeah.
the whole thing just messes with time as well. But anyway.
Yeah, so you fight a bunch of boss battles. You fight against Ironclad. You fight Reno and Rude. You fight Elena and Seng. Like you fight all of the current Turks really, and then let's talk about this. The trials.
Yeah.
You find a room where everybody has a door they need to go through. It has a cool like little like sniper scope line almost that
Yep.
points at a person, except for Cloud. Cough, cough, cough. And everybody essentially needs to go in there and kind of face their past.
Yeah, relive like their darkest
Right.
memory kind of thing.
I really didn't like this scene because I thought the strength of a lot of the original Final Fantasy VII stuff was it really is a story about Zack, Cloud, Tifa, and Aerith. And like everybody else has their own backstory stuff. You get Yuffie's, you get Barrett's, like you get Red 13's, like you get everybody's. But them kind of going back to the well again for this stuff felt like a little bit too much. And a lot of them were pretty short, which I appreciated. But of course, the most heart-wrenching one of like, let's watch Aerith's mom die for a
Dude,
really
yeah.
long time. It's
And
like,
then let's
guys,
control child Aerith and try to get help for her mom.
and
It's
she's
like, but
crying the whole
dude,
time. It's
yeah.
like,
It's like,
bro, like it's
jeez.
sad. All of that stuff was sad. You don't need to like twist the knife for 30 minutes. Like it
Yeah.
wasn't really that long, but like it felt really long where it's like we know this stuff and we don't really need to live it because it's what really frustrated me is like all of that stuff was fine until it didn't pay off to anything. Like at the
Yeah.
end everybody was like, boy, that was heavy. That really sucked. Anyways, the store's open. Let's go. And it's like, no, like, wait, like,
Yeah.
what was that in service
And
for?
the whole thing with Cloud also not being picked, because this wasn't in the original at all. This is
Right.
Rebirth only. With Cloud being picked, I was kind of sitting there going, okay, is it because they're going with the route of he's currently living what would be his trauma?
Right.
Is it because he doesn't remember his trauma? Is it
Right.
because he's like possibly possessed right now? Because we
Right, or
still
is
don't
it-
100% know where they're going with how Cloud is acting.
Right. Because it, like, to me, it was always like, well, Cloud isn't really who he is or
Yeah.
thinks he is, and Cloud isn't really real. So, of course, he doesn't have a trial because it's not really Cloud in
Yeah.
some form or fashion. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that whole thing
it
was
raised some
just
interesting questions for Cloud, but yeah, playing
Right.
it for everybody else was kind of like, yeah, okay, whatever, let's hurry up and
Yeah.
knock this out.
That was a real bummer. I do like that you fight the Demon Gate. That's one of my favorite
Yes.
fights from Final Fantasy VII, and like getting the two Demon Gates that are both pushing in on themselves. Really good. That was a
Mhm.
super cool fight.
And then we get the whole thing with the Cetra holograms, which was
Right.
really cool and has led me to some interesting ideas about something we'll bring up when we get at the end.
Right. And a lot of like, boy, things are really bad, and like we've been fighting this fight for a really long time, and you really need to not let the bad guys get the black materia.
Yep.
For real. Like, I left holograms to tell you, please don't do it.
And a very elaborate trap, which is
Yes.
even more better in Rebirth.
Yeah, and like when Cloud takes the black materia, which Aerith tells him not to because it's a fake, the whole temple starts collapsing in on itself. And like Kate Sith appears and he is holding up the little plate that it was sitting on and trying to buy them more time. But eventually the temple like folds in on itself and kind of blinks out and disappears. And then the party is like, well, that was really rough. Anyways, who's over there? Oh, it's Kate Sith. What's up? And he's like, yeah, I'm a robot. Guys,
Yeah,
like I got more robots.
That was stupid funny when they're all looking off at like the hollowed ground
Mm-hmm.
and they're all like mourning him, and yeah, he
Yep.
just pops up. It's like, hey, what you guys all looking at? It's like, oh man, that was really bad, huh?
Yeah, that robot sure is gone, huh? And they're like, what the hell? And then this whole thing kicks off where Cloud is freaking out because he has the black materia now. Number one, black materia looks incredibly cool. Like the
Yes.
swirling galaxy, like
Hmm.
orange and blue inside of it.
It looks like the
So,
abyss,
yeah, like
basically.
so cool. Barrett takes it from Cloud and like throws it away and is like, Cloud, you need to wake up. Sephiroth picks it up because, of course, someone gets rid of it, so Sephiroth's going to pick it up.
Well, and
And
Cloud kind of lunges at it like an addict.
yes, like he really like that's the interesting part about so much of this is like his tie to the black materia and to Sephiroth is so strong at this point that as you're controlling him in these next couple of scenes where Sephiroth tells Cloud to get it back for him and then hand it to him, Aerith tries to get in his way, so Sephiroth's basically like, you just go ahead and kill her. Like,
Yeah.
I got what we need, so like, Cloud, you can go do it. Go ahead. Like, even as you're controlling Cloud doing these things, there's like a hesitancy to it, like Cloud's trying to fight but kind of can't really.
Yeah.
And Cloud gives Sephiroth the black materia, and the whispers are there, of course, and they're like hounding Cloud and Aerith and like pushing Aerith off these these wooden tendrils that are all around the temple.
Yeah, which looked really cool. But
It does look very cool.
yeah.
And then Sephiroth uses his sword to kind of cut the tendril that Cloud and Aerith are on and dumps them into the abyss below them, which starts chapter 14, which is titled End of the World.
This is, go ahead with this part, yeah.
Okay, so this is we're doing like 2 or 3 storylines at the same time. So apologies if some of this is kind of out of order or we get this all jumbled up. It basically starts off with Zack is in a underground tunnel trying to figure out, okay, do I save Biggs? Do I save Cloud? Do I who do I go after? He chooses to go to Shinra HQ to go talk to Hojo to save Cloud. And he goes the one path. The other path has this very bright rainbow flash effect that happens. And the scene kind of cuts to him in the Shinra HQ lobby fighting just a grip of Shinra soldiers.
Yeah.
Cloud and Aerith wake up in the timeline that they're in with Zack. And let's go on a date. And Cloud is like, that seems weird. Why are you being weird? Also, why shouldn't I look at the sky? That just makes me want to look at it more. Oh God, what's happening with the sky?
There's a rift.
Yeah, and she's just like, it's the underworld. Don't worry about it. They have kind of
a date. That's right, because it's not specifically our Cloud and Aerith. It's the bodies of Cloud and Aerith in this other timeline that have woken up now.
Right. Yes, it's the Zack timeline, Cloud and Aerith at the end of the world from the intro cutscene of the game 50, 60 hours ago.
We told you guys it was gonna get weird.
Yeah, it's gonna get a little flowcharty here at this point. So they wake up, they're having a date. Anytime Cloud picks something, they say, no, we're out of it. Here's another thing. Aerith is acting really weird. Sephiroth seems to have found them in their dream and is sort of like, that's where you're hiding out. Okay, peace. And sort of farts off into the distance. Biggs finds that... So, Zack finds Biggs in the Sector 6 reactor, and Biggs is despondent because it is dry. So, he can bomb it, but it's not going to do anything. He actually, pushes the bomb off and just poof. It just it doesn't really do anything.
Yeah, and he's I can't even build a bomb correctly.
Yeah, and he's like, I can't even bomb this reactor. The planet's dead. All these reactors are empty. And Zack is like, no, don't worry, man. We can still do something. Blam. Biggs gets shot by Shinra. And Zack kind of it's really sucked. And Zack jumps into the reactor below. If you've seen any of the stuff at the end of this game, you'll notice that yes, this is a different stamp on his potato chip packet. So
Yeah.
you can tell where we are from the stamp. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go look it up. It's like 4 more hours that we can't get into here.
Yeah.
But it's the short thing of it is every time you're in a different timeline, Stamp, the dog mascot, is different. It's a different breed of dog and a different hat. So you can kind of tell when the timelines are different from each other.
You can tell which one's the prime Stamp and which one's
That's
the
right.
alternate. Yeah.
That's right. So we go back to the date. They take a picture. Things are getting weirder. There are more white flashes on the screen. Cloud finally confronts Aerith and says, like, look, this is all really weird. I don't understand what's going on. You're acting really weird. Like, can you just answer me seriously about what the hell is going on? And she says, yes, I will explain to you once we reach our destination. And then we get, like, kind of more white flashes on the screen. Cuts to Zack outside of the Aerith's church. Yep. And Sephiroth just waltzes in on there. And Zack's like, hey, wait, well... hold on a second. What's going on here? The Sephiroth, like, opens a rift in
the most Kingdom Hearts thing ever.
That's right. Like, slashes the ground, and there's, like, a rift that opens, and the whispers, like, push him into this rift, and it just kind of, like, disappears Zack into somewhere else. Zack is kind of saved by white whispers and led towards somewhere else. Yep. And
an infinite scene of white.
Right. Aerith takes Cloud to the church and says, I really, like, you're really important. Like, you're important to me. I really care very deeply for you. Here's a materia. It's my special white materia. It's pretty important.
And it's a normal-looking holy materia.
Right. Anyways, you go through portal 2. Bye. It's just like, wait,
she shoves them into the flowers, yeah.
Yeah, like Sephiroth is coming through the doors at Aerith, and she pushes him, like into a flower portal to kick him out.
Yeah.
As Cloud is going through the portal, Sephiroth is laying out the, like, multiverse theory to Cloud of, like, whenever there's a decision that's being made, if there are 2 decisions, 2 worlds, 2 timelines get created. And it's the natural way of things that timelines are created and destroyed, and they wither on the vine, and they rot and they die. But what if I could put all of them together and mwahaha, evil plan?
Welcome to my TED Talk about string theory.
Exactly. And like his sort of thing is like, Jenova and I can put all of these timelines together and destroy everything at the same time with the power of the black materia. And it's like, yeah, I think. And his specific phrasing he uses here is the boundaries of fate are breached. So it's kind of the extension of the ending of Remake, which is like, we don't have to be bound by the chains of fate. We can do what we want to, and maybe we can kind of mush together all these timelines and worlds. And he again says, it's not death, it's just a homecoming. Which is kind of the thing.
It's a reunion.
It's a reunion. Like as Cloud continues to kind of parrot that more and more as the game goes on. You go through a forest, you fight a couple of whispers. Aerith pops out and is like, "Hey, by the way, thanks so much. I will take that materia, and I will give you an empty one."
Yep.
Okay, bye. It's just like, okay, cool.
And then meet up with everybody else.
Yeah, you get this, like, half-told, no vocals, in and out of dream state thing where someone is, like, Barrett is carrying Cloud through the forest. They're trying to chase Aerith because she ran off on her own, and everybody's, like, trying to wake up Cloud because he's the only one that was with her, so he has to know where she went, but he's not responding. But you've got to Like we're
Keep
gonna
going.
try and
Yeah.
find her anyways. He kind of wakes up and everybody has a moment to kind of talk to him. Red 13 is like, hey, there's a city up here, like an ancient Cetra city. She has to go there. There's a special altar there. That's really the only place she could have gone. We should at least start heading that way.
Yeah.
And you get your kind of like end of a JRPG moment, one-on-one with Cloud and everybody, which I thought was pretty well done.
Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah. And
Especially how they branched everybody off.
mhm,
Because you would only get it where you would start walking. Yeah, you started out with Red 13, and then he kind of branched off to finish exploring the forest, and then somebody else would come back to check up on you because
right.
you're kind of bringing up the rear while recovering. So that was cool, being able to talk to everyone one on one. I did want to bring up, just real
Mhm.
quick, that they skipped Bone Village at this point, because
Yes.
you're supposed to go to Bone Village in the original, then you go to the Sleeping Forest, then you go to the Ancient City.
Right.
So, but whatever, it's not a big thing. And the Sleeping Forest was basically this: you're walking in a line from one point to the
Right.
other.
It's basically
So,
like this is the way we have to go.
yeah,
Um
looked really cool though.
yes, it looks very cool. You'll you kind of essentially make your way through the forest into the city. Cloud goes through, everybody gets stopped by like a curtain of black whispers that Sephiroth
Yeah,
is kind of using to keep everybody separated from Aerith. Cloud goes through and you kind of finally get the point in the game of like, hey, in the city, oh, there's a vending machine and a chair over there. It's
yeah.
probably the end of the game. You should probably save.
Maybe take a rest. Yeah,
Yeah. So you get through that. You get closer and closer to Aerith. You're kind of like doing the normal L2 R2 thing this game loves to do, of
hmm
like you're fighting against stuff and trying to separate or trying to get to Aerith to save her, because whether you've played Final Fantasy VII before or not, kind of know what's going to happen. Um, and the whispers and Sephiroth kind of have you raise your sword towards Aerith, like you're going to cut her down. And then two things happen at the same time.
yeah,
Aerith
which is really weird.
does and doesn't get killed by
Yeah,
Sephiroth. Like you start off by deflecting his blade, but the scene is constantly doing that like switching staticky thing where it's switching between Sephiroth getting deflected and killing her, and she's lying in your arms asleep, she's lying in your arms dead, and you have blood all over you. Like Aerith is and isn't getting killed by Sephiroth in like one of the most famous video game scenes of all time at the same time,
yeah,
which is a lot and still confusing. Um,
yes,
and then you Aerith is essentially like, hey, everything is going to be okay in both timelines, but like I need you to make sure that you don't give him the black materia. Like I need you to like finish this once and for all. So you essentially go into this now big multi-boss fight thing where Cloud is fighting Sephiroth, you're fighting Bahamut, who's like back from the dead. Zack and Sephiroth are fighting. You
which was kind of cool, but kind
It
of
was
weird at the
pretty
same
cool.
time.
You do
Yeah,
like the whole party. I actually really liked the Genova Lifeclinger boss fight. I kind of wish the game had finished on that, because you get the Advent children, like everybody's throwing each other into Genova to attack
yep.
her. I was like, dang, you're gonna do like the Advent children Bahamut boss fight thing here, like
We're
to
gonna get
wrap out
Omni
this game.
Slash. Yeah,
That's dope. Like, yeah, let's do this. And it's like, no, you finish this game fighting Sephiroth again. Okay, that's fine. I get it, but like, okay. Um, but I do like that Cloud and Aerith fight Sephiroth at the end in that like big white arena where you're like
yep.
fighting Sephiroth and you're fighting Masamune when he kind of like plants it in the ground every once in a while. And you get to like it's a much more mobile fight where he's got stuff coming out of both of his hands, and you're kind of going around as he's turning around a lot.
That
It was a pretty
part screwed me so many times because the camera was just being super wonky.
Yep. Even if
both
you're locked
times.
on, it was weird.
Yeah, and if
Yeah.
you get pushed back far enough, it's just a wall of that black stuff behind him.
Oh, okay.
So the first time he hit me with the stream, it pushed me into the wall, and Cloud would not get up because he was getting hit from both sides.
Oh, right.
And so it just stun locked me, and then I died.
Oh, jeez.
And that's when I ran into the whole thing about, hey, make sure you select the first option of restarting and not the other one that makes it seem like the one that you want, because it's not.
Pick the first one again. I ran into that when I was fighting one of the Sephiroth ones, and he blasts the whole party down to 1 HP. And at that point, the game's like, tutorial. And I was like, bro, no. Stop. And they're like desperate synergies. I was like, no, I need to use like a mist healing thing to heal up. No, I lost. Okay, cool. So you do all that fighting, and here's where we get into the ending of Rebirth, and we're 2.5 hours. So let's break down as much of this as we can. Sephiroth flies off, and the White Whispers are kind of hanging out with Cloud and Aerith as she is dying in the timeline that you're in, essentially. At the same time, Zack is done fighting Sephiroth in wherever he is, and it's essentially like, look at meteor crashing into the planet. This is sort of a way to go. Okay. And then like the floor gives out, and he drops back into that like white room life stream thing.
Purgatory at this point, whatever.
Yeah, and he's like, well, this is a cool story. And I'm like, oh,
and he's
okay.
like, see you later, or see you next time, or something.
Yeah, and I'm like,
oh my God.
Okay. So everybody is gathered around Aerith's body, mourning her, and Cloud is like in a different timeline, talking to her and encouraging her to wake up, which she does. And then everything's so squirrely at the end of this game. So it's essentially like Cloud is talking to Aerith's ghost while everybody is mourning her death, like on the outside of the pool that you would have buried Aerith in the original game.
Which we don't get in this game.
I know, like that's the scene.
They drop. I personally feel like they dropped the ball.
Yeah, you have to put that scene
thing.
where he like lays her into the water and she sinks down. Like that's the scene.
Cloud has an emotional breakdown because of this
for like 30 hours.
Yeah,
like I agree with you. I think they really kind of dropped the ball on like those two cutscenes back to back. Like there's a Genova boss fight in the middle in the original game. Those are the Final Fantasy VII scenes. So like to get two versions of her getting stabbed is fine, but to not get the
through
burying her one is a bummer. So it's essentially like everybody is kind of, Cloud is talking to Aerith and she's saying like, you guys need to go. Like you need to keep moving because Sephiroth isn't going to stop just because you're sad. So Barrett eventually kind of is like, all right, we need to leave. Like let's kind of keep this thing moving. And everybody kind of starts wandering off, sort of one by one to leave the capital. At the same time, Rufus and Glenn are talking about their like evil machinations. And as Glenn is basically like, boy, it's really weird that Saruf didn't show up, huh? And Rufus is like, yeah, like your rinky-dink, like little cheap thing isn't gonna really call that rich boy out. And I'm like, oh my God, just say you're Saruf. Jesus Christ. Yeah. Rufus and Saruf are the same name. Oh my God. Mm-hmm. People are like, I wonder who Saruf is. Like Glenn looks like he could be Cloud's dad. And I was like, it's Rufus.
Yeah.
It's Dracula it's the same
Alucard all over again.
Exactly. It's like
just come on.
It's him. So they're essentially like twirling their mustache about like, oh, the promised land. We have the way open. Glenn is not really who he is. He's just also a puppet of Sephiroth, and like maybe also a black robe at the same time.
Yeah, because he makes mention about how it's like, oh, what? Because he ends up making Rufus mad, and he's like, oh, what are you gonna do? Shoot me in the back again? And sure enough, he turns around, and Rufus just point blank shoots him in the back, and then
like
he turns into a
15
black
times.
robe. Yeah.
Yeah, like
So I was like, okay, yeah.
yeah. Um, the Zack wakes up in the church and wondering if he's kind of dreaming all of that stuff, and the that's kind of the end of his stuff. The Black Robes and Nibelheim are kind of making their way to the reactor. Everybody is the ending sort of scene of this game has a lot going on.
Yes.
They're in this wide open green field with the tiny Bronco that Sid is working on. Cloud is looking at the clear holy materia that he got from Aerith. He's remembering that the non-clear one sunk to the bottom of the lake around the Forgotten Capital. He looks and has the black materia somehow still.
Yeah, and it seems to like form in his pocket. Like all of a sudden, there's just like a weight there.
Yeah, he like doesn't realize he has it until he does. He then pushes it into the Buster Sword,
which looks really cool.
It does an incredible like effect down it of like it merging in, and nobody else sees that he has it. Nobody else that he sees does it. He talks about like, hey, I need everyone to do something for me. Don't look at the sky. And Barrett parrots the same line that Cloud had earlier. Is like, well, now I'm definitely going to look at the sky. All of them look up and it looks totally normal. Cloud looks up and there's that giant like orange yellow rift through the sky.
And this entire time, Aerith is like walking around.
Yeah,
everybody
like walking
as well.
There's a heartbreaking moment where she touches Red 13 and he says her name. And like he's the only one that can kind of feel her. I'm like,
sensed her.
Red. Yeah. And then like Cloud says Sephiroth is hiding up north. And Barrett is like, how do you know that? Like, this is all riding on you. Like, how do you know? And he goes, I know. Like, I know that this is where he's going. Everything ends sort of in the north.
Yeah.
And then everybody starts getting on the tiny Bronco. Cloud has a moment with Aerith saying, she's like, I need you to promise me that you're going to stop him. She says, I'm going to do everything I can to stop the meteor, but I can't stop Sephiroth. That needs to be your thing.
Yep.
Cloud says, yes, I promise. He gets on the plane, and everybody kind of goes off in the distance as Aerith is standing there on the grassy kind of hill field area. And then the text appears on the screen that says, no promises await at Journey's End. And then it goes to credits.
Yep.
So that's a lot of that like final like 5 minutes of the game is just like, cool, that's a lot of stuff, man.
They crammed a bunch of stuff in there, and I feel like they're prepping for Cloud going. I don't know if I want to say it because it is going to be a spoiler, but Cloud becomes unavailable.
Yeah, Cloud through the last like third of the game isn't around.
Yeah, and I think they're leading up to that, and I think they're kind of doing an interesting take on him slowly losing himself.
Right.
With like all this extra crap that's happening at the end of the game.
Yeah, because shockingly, they didn't get to the real events that happened in Nibelheim.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you watch the opening cutscene of this game, not the opening of the Nibelheim flashback, you don't see that dude's face at all. Like,
nope.
Like,
yeah.
They lay it out. If you've played the original, you know what's going on. But like, I thought that was going to be the ending of this game, was sort of being like, no, 5 years ago, here's what actually happened. And that's where kind of the fracture with Cloud happens.
Yeah.
But I'm shocked they didn't deal with any of that stuff.
Yeah. But overall, what did you think of Rebirth?
Honestly, I liked it a whole lot. I talked about on the main show that all of this stuff that happened in the ending, I came out of it with more questions than answers.
Yep.
More so than in Remake. But that, to me, that's okay, because this is the middle part. Like, every trilogy, things end poorly at the end of the second installment. There's like, they wrapped up 2 storylines and they opened up 15 more. This is all kind of normal stuff for the middle part of a trilogy. But just like Remake, I feel like Rebirth did the... We're leaving the track that the original game was on in kind of interesting ways. Like, yeah, we saved Aerith, but we kind of didn't at the same time. Like, she lives and she doesn't. And she's around probably through the third game, like in a ghost version for Cloud, I'm assuming. But maybe she isn't. And maybe she is at the same time. And, like, I like the idea that we talked about Remake posing the question of, how closely or how far should a remake veer off from its source material?
Yeah.
And I think the question that Rebirth asks is, what happens when a remake veers off from its source material significantly? And that's where we get this kind of like multi-timeline, multiverse theory of like, yeah, Zack is alive and he isn't. Aerith is dead and she isn't. And the white materia Holy is here to stop the meteor and it isn't. So like,
Yep.
How do you deal with all those moving pieces going forward in a story that at the same time is Final Fantasy VII and isn't at the same time? Which is like what I really wanted to talk about on the main show is like, this is still Final Fantasy VII, but it isn't at the same time in a way that's hard to explain unless you played both of the games through to
unless
completion.
You want to make a 3-hour-long podcast specifically.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, I enjoyed the game.
Yeah.
I still have issues with it. Like I still don't like the combat. Didn't like it in Remake. I still don't like it in this one.
Gameplay wise, I think it needs a little bit more oomph. Like it needs a little bit something.
Especially when you compare it with other action games that Square has already made that feel better.
Right.
But whatever. It is what it is. There's way too much Sephiroth in this.
That was my criticism of the first one too, of like, boy, you're showing up immediately, huh?
I think they're missing the point of what made him a good villain was that you did not see him very often, and when you did, bad things were happening.
When you saw him, he killed Aerith. Like, he'd been gone for like 20 hours, and it's like, oh yeah, what about, oh no, he killed one of your party members permanently.
Yep. And the only other thing that I didn't like is I feel like sometimes the story, like they just kind of lost the flow with what they were doing. Specifically with the death of Aerith. I feel like that was a huge miss. I did not want to re-experience that. 20 years later.
Right.
However, like you were saying, that is a historical moment in video game.
Yeah.
And I hope they get it to pay off in whatever they're doing in the third one. But right now, it's like, man, you guys kind of screwed that up. to me personally.
Yeah, you're missing a pretty critical scene here.
Yeah, but everything else, like we were saying, like the game looks gorgeous. The voice acting with all of the actors is spot on.
Cloud's voice actor, especially, we haven't talked about him. Super good.
He does. The fine line he walks constantly of not caring or kind of caring, but still not caring.
Right, being too cool for school.
Yeah.
The
edgelord that he's carrying with this.
Yep.
But one other fun question that I have for you. Specifically, we were talking about what should they name the third game? And I have a couple things that I wrote down just because I thought it was kind of cool. It was like, so far we have Remake and we have Rebirth. It's like, well, what if we have Final Fantasy VII Redemption,
Mm.
Revival, and then one that came to me really well was Reverie,
Oh,
because
okay.
Reverie being, it means daydream,
Right.
and that kind of feels like where we left Cloud off at the end of what seems like his mind seems to kind of be fracturing a little bit,
Right.
and he's kind
Between
of living
multiple
between,
worlds.
yeah, is
Yeah.
like, which one's real, which one's fake, where's the daydream, where's,
Right.
so those are just the dumb ones that I came up with that
To
like
me,
Reverie's like really awesome.
yeah, to me, like I said originally, I hope that it's reunion, because like reunion is a word that's so important to Final Fantasy VII. Even in the original, is like
Yeah,
I have a reunion with Mother. Like the Black Robes are having a reunion with Genova. Like they're trying to reunite with Sephiroth. That's a Cloud starts parroting that from Sephiroth more and more as the game goes on. That would be my personal vote. Um, but like, no matter what they name the third one, just like with this one, I'll be there day one just to see like
yeah,
whatever they do with this game. Especially after the first one, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna keep taking this ride. Like I don't know where we're going with this, but
yeah. I'm interested to see what happens, and like I said earlier, if I don't like it, I still own the original. So,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right. Well, that is our 5-star runtime here for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I have to go record like 3 other podcasts here pretty shortly. So thank you very much, everyone, for listening. We greatly appreciate it. Hopefully you enjoyed this episode. We don't get to do Spoilercast that often because all of
yeah,
us are busy. We very rarely get to play games, especially new games, kind of at the same time. So luckily we kind of lucked into this. And hopefully everybody enjoyed it. Check out more of our stuff over at tvgp.tv. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next time. Bye.
bye.